very special episode of LPALive. We are streaming the SIC appeal. To give you a heads up, this does involve Hector Roos, so we can expect it to take an approximate 1.21 gigadays to get through. So if you're with us for the long haul this afternoon. This is on the matter of Roos et al. Versus the LNC regarding the Special Investigatory Committee report on disgraced ex-chair and failed makeup artist, as well as autobiographer Angela McCardle. Kyle, what do we know at this hour?
The thing that I currently know is that I can't hear them. Can you hear them?
No, I cannot hear them, Kyle.
Testing. Can you hear me?
I can hear
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can now.
Yes, whoever that is.
That was Blay. Thank you. Just testing.
All right. Mike was lit up, so I thought they were talking, but he was not.
Kyle, I cannot stand the font at the bottom of the screen. Please fix it.
But it's Creepster for Halloween.
It's not Halloween yet. By the way, guys, join us on Halloween because we have a special LP Alliance episode planned. Bring your costumes. Most of my gear came today. Apparently some of yours did too. Okay.
All right, do one last check for any late registration stragglers.
I haven't tried on my wig yet.
And seeing none.
He says he just registered.
Mine's not here yet.
Okay, we'll give it a moment then.
Your wig might not fit, is what you were telling me.
Yeah, but since there's also a flower crown, I figure that I can always just sit it on top, slid back a little bit, and put the flower crown in the front, and no one will know better.
I'll be very disappointed. I don't think you'd like me when I'm disappointed. That's a lie. That's a bold-faced lie.
All I've ever known from you is disappointment.
I mean, that seems like a personal problem. It seems like a problem that you could fix.
Working on it.
To be less disappointing.
It does not still appear to be showing up.
I can tell he's typing something. What is he typing?
Let me refresh it. Oh, still no joy.
Kyle has disappointed me once again, everyone.
I need to message Mr. Montoni. Make sure he's coming.
Are the chapter titles germane to the action of the chapter? Go on.
Oh, dear God. Hector Roos is in a suit. And by a suit, a button-up shirt.
I know this is going to be a really mean thing to say, but since I have no love for this person either, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I thought that was Adrian Malagon at first. I was like, what is Adrian Malagon doing back in front of the judicial
This
committee?
meeting is being recorded.
That's probably the same.
Alrighty, we're going to convene this at 3:05 Central.
I also feel that's much meaner.
On Sunday the 26th. This is the judicial hearing.
That's because Adrian thinks that he says mean things about me, and they're not actually mean. They're just funny.
Appeal regarding the Special Investigative Committee report and subsequent motions. We have 5 members of the Judicial Committee here for a quorum.
Are you Stephen Nekila now?
Mr. Tarnoff, Mr. Latham, Mr. Stratton, Mr. Krawchuk, and myself.
On the wrong syllable all the time.
I'm a fan of that one.
Everybody should be able to see on the screen the agenda for this hearing. Everybody will be muted until it is their turn to speak. We will not have crosstalk so that everybody has a chance to present their case and answer and ask their questions. We
Did
have
anyone
10
like
minutes for
install the
opening
thing that could
statements,
tell whether
5 minutes
Hector's
for
using
rebuttal,
ChatGPT while
and
he's
5 minutes
talking?
each for closing arguments.
I have
Those
not.
time limits will be enforced as close to those moments as possible. At this point, I wish to ask Mr. McGee, are you representing the LNC or someone else?
And we're glad that you switched to here, because this is the place that you come to get your comments on the screen. It's not just about our commentary, it's about your commentary. The people. We want to know what you think.
McGee is present.
Will you be presenting for the LNC?
Yes, sir.
And we'll talk to you.
Okay. And I see Mr. Martin had his hand raised. Are you presenting for the appellants?
Angie, that is correct.
I apologize. My hand being up was an error. I believe I will be presenting if called upon by the petitioners.
And we can't wait. Yes, our bingo card has a
It's
Stephen
It's expected to be
mispronounces
me,
a word on it.
Austin, Martin, and Jonathan Jacobs, if he can join us, even if he has to join me via speakerphone.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. Do one more registration check real quick just to make sure. Wait a minute, we have a new one, and okay.
You are the
Mr.
commentariat,
Jacobs is
Dustin.
Approved to get in here. So
Dustin's
he
also
should
the
be
pride
able
of the
to join us
proletariat.
momentarily. We
During
will
our
stand
Maltop
at ease
cocktail
for
hour,
a moment for that purpose.
he comes on, and that's his moniker, pride of the proletariat, Dustin Copper.
I'm going to pause the recording in the moment.
The recording
also,
has stopped.
He is also responsible. He's the commissar for awarding Pride of the Proletariat awards, so it overlaps nicely that he always gets the award.
Did it read which email address you approved for?
Check.
Should be
SCORG.live.com was approved.
ORG.
Yes, it's that one.
Can you have an
That
over
was
versus
approved.
under on something happening? I thought over versus under was a quantity. It's not really about her getting acquitted, though, because it's not as though she was convicted. It was more like they adopted the findings as like a source of truth, essentially. So the question is whether that will hold or whether Hector Roos and ChatGPT shall dominate. Dustin, you're just, I mean, again, as the people's custodian for the Secretariat of Pride of the Proletariat Awards, I think it's hard work, and you deserve those awards that you're giving to yourself.
Just waiting for Mr. Jacobs to get in here.
Yes, it is an appeal.
Yes.
And to everybody else here, apologies for the delay, but we want to make sure that all of the people arguing their cases for each side are present so they can do so. Mr. Roos, is Mr. Jacobs having trouble getting in?
I can't give you an over versus under on a non-quantitative response.
Sure you can. It's just a percentage.
I take it the passcode. Can I give you the
I give
passcode
it
number?
a
He's still saying he's
25%
having
chance of
trouble.
successful appeal.
I don't know if the passcode would help. I have 530718.
That's
Well,
what
now
I'm
everyone knows the
typing in.
passcode.
I'll try it again.
By the way, they
It has
did
to be
limit
the correct
this
zip code because, or the correct email, because that's where it was sent.
Right.
so that only bougie people with corporate Zoom accounts can get into this appeal.
Okay. Well,
Nope.
well,
I have to do this on a speaker.
okay. Can everybody hear JJ okay?
No.
Unfortunately.
Can you hear him okay?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he
Okay,
meant
well,
if we could
this
hear
will
him
be
and we were
how it would
okay.
have to be then.
All right.
Sorry.
We're going to resume recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
And at this point, the appellants will have 10 minutes to give their opening statements.
All right. That will be me then. Am I being timed?
Yes,
Is this
sir.
ready? All right. Good afternoon, members of the Libertarian Party Judicial Committee. Thank you for your service to this party. This has been the most interesting term of the Judicial Committee I've ever seen. For introductions, I'm Hector Roos, and I address you today not just on my own behalf, but on many members who
On many behalves.
who signed this petition, who value due process,
It's a behole,
transparency,
actually.
and the foundational
behalves, we
principles
have a
upon
behole.
which our party stands. This member's appeal before you is in regard to the actions related to the LNC's adoption of the Special Investigatory Report at the June 9, 2025 special meeting. This Special Investigatory Report and related resolutions were adopted with glaring factual errors and opinion misrepresented as facts. These items were noticed and presented in a rushed manner, presenting a critical breakdown in party governance. The LNC majority defends its actions by claiming mere procedural correctness. Our bylaws are not mere parliamentary law, but also contain our libertarian ethos, represented by the Statement of Principles. The Libertarian Party is not supposed to be like the duopoly parties, where personal ambition drives the bus, so to speak. As libertarians, we are supposed to model the behavior
And yet,
that we want others to emulate. This is an inflection point in our party's history. Are we a party of principles?
Well, I mean, you're here, Hector, so clearly we're not.
did he get cut off?
He's at least muted.
I can't hear him.
Mr. Roos, you are muted. We cannot
It's
hear you.
amazing.
Stand by. That might have
Don't
been
let him
my
know that.
fault. Hold on a moment, please. Mr. Roos, can you?
And I don't call it a fault,
Do I-
Mike.
Do I start from the beginning?
No, just
Yes.
go back about,
All the way back.
20 seconds.
You can even tell this is written by
Okay,
ChatGPT just hearing it.
So this Special Investigatory Report and related resolutions were adopted with glaring factual errors and opinions misrepresented as facts. These items were noticed and presented in a rushed manner, presenting a critical breakdown in party governance. The LNC majority defends its actions by claiming mere procedural correctness. Our bylaws are not mere parliamentarian law, but also contain our libertarian ethos, represented by the Statement of Principles. The Libertarian Party is not supposed to be like the duopoly parties, where personal ambition drives the bus, so to speak. As libertarians, we're supposed to model the behavior that we want others to emulate. This is an inflection point in our party's history.
or emulate
Are
the
we
behavior we
a
want
party
others
of
to model. It
principles
really
or not?
doesn't. The words don't
How
mean
did we get
anything.
here? Immediately after the Reno
Words are made
takeover,
up and
the
point
LNC
doesn't
under
matter.
Angela McArdle was facing significant financial pressure. Eventually, the LNC agreed to let Angela become an interim executive director to save the party money and to right the ship. Being executive director authorized her to enter into vendor contracts independent of the LNC and the flexibility to terminate employment agreements. By the time she had
See,
resigned as chair,
the
the
problem
party
with that
was
one,
doing
Angie,
financially better.
Is they haven't
Most
realized
LNC members
the
rarely
power
questioned
of
how
weaponized
but she was
autism
doing it.
that is the
The
Libertarian
LNC
Party.
was largely hands-off and let
The more
new
they make us think
tagline.
about this,
action with the help of a
the
small number
more
of LNC
it
members.
becomes
The
the
point
focus
is
we
that
have. And they're
what
not
we've
going to
not
win.
heard from the LNC is, was her behavior authorized or not? And that is also not answered in the SIC report. So naturally, since LNC members weren't paying attention when the report by Jake Porter was published in January accusing Angela of wrongdoing, many LNC members were caught off guard, not knowing what was true. As shown in the appeal brief, this petitioner immediately refuted Mr. Porter's accusations, which, unsupported by real evidence,
Damn right,
save
Carol.
whatever was provided by an anonymous source. As Angela has explained in her fact sheet, LNC members who once supported her made their demand for her to resign or face consequences. She did resign and moved on to start a ministry supporting the freedom of federal prisoners, including
Lying
Russell
sack
Brooke
of shit, Hector.
Roger Ver, and
I
many
thought she
others.
started an
Despite
anti-trans
promises
makeup
to leave her
line
alone, the LNC continued to
That was
pressure
and an
her
her to push
autobiography
them and finally presented
and
the
a
SIC
career
report as we have seen it,
and a
full of
job that hasn't
inaccuracies,
started yet.
incompleteness, and false pretenses. Petitioners waited months before it was clear that the LNC had no interest in redoing the SIC report at the very least. I mean, it's important to understand the claims of misrepresentations. These misrepresentations are not severable, meaning the entire LNC report would have to be redone in order to fix these misrepresentations. Let's be clear at this stage that the LNC written response's only defense is that the LNC is not bound by the statement of principles, alluding to some loophole, meaning they
That
can
is
make
not what was
these
said
misrepresentations
either.
without any
Oh, you lying
consequence.
sack of shit.
And the
I'm so glad
misrepresentations we're
Jonathan's
talking
here
about
to
are those
defend himself on
simply
this one.
defined in the SIC report. They define things. We check what they say in the SIC report. They don't match. So there's issues of a lack of independence in the report. There's factual incorrectness, including mentions of DC code that doesn't even apply here. So intent is actually not necessary to get into the heart of the matter of this appeal. Simply looking at whether their claims match what's actually said. And we've seen this before in past JC appeals, particularly in the defense of Ms. Harlos, and we'd like that same standard to apply here. So that's the real elephant in the room. Is what the LNC has actually done here, and I think the issue of the response is very interesting regarding the statement of principles. That I'd like JJ
No, I don't think so.
to speak for the rest of the time here in regards to our opening statement. JJ.
Okay, thank you. I hope you all can hear me. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Want to start out by saying something from quoting Robert, which is mine. It's 65:68, number 4. There is a presumption that nothing has been placed in the bylaws without some reason for it. Section 3.1 of the bylaws say, the statement of principles affirms the philosophy upon which the Libertarian Party is founded, by which it shall be sustained, and through which it shall prevail. That is binding. There must be a presumption that that clause is binding on the Libertarian Party, on all of us, the members, the various organs of the party, the LNC, even the JC, even the convention. There was something raised in an amicus that, where's that amicus? I'm never any good with Latin.
Oh my God.
That talked about this would only apply to property. Well, in the SIC,
for those who don't know, him saying he's not good with Latin is intended to try to be an emotional play on the fucking JC.
They're looking at fundraising.
It's
as was the case with one of the original motions that has since been ruled void. They actually said that they're looking for.
I mean, if I were a JC member, I would just be angry that he didn't know Latin.
To make sufficient contributions to a legal.
Is it supposed to be like this poor Southern country lawyer kind of thing? Is that what that is?
And I'm going to submit that they are asking for money by misrepresenting the situation. Money is a type of property, unless taxation is not theft.
Fucking Democrats. What do you care?
We can take a look at this. This alone should be enough because I don't believe it is in any way ambiguous. But we can also take a look at two other things in dealing with bylaw interpretation. The framer's intent, D. Frank Robinson. That's in one of the briefs. But he used words very specifically when referring to the statement of principles as a tether, an anchor, a lifeline, something that does bind the LNC. And in fact, the Libertarian Party as a whole. This bylaw does that, so that the intent of that bylaw certainly appears to be to bind the party to the statement of principles. Let me repeat the statement of principles. The statement of principles affirms the philosophy that the Libertarian Party is found, upon which the Libertarian Party is founded.
In case people don't know, Jonathan Jacobs is a registered Democrat.
Finally, and this is the weakest one, we have prior judicial committees. As we've seen in the Epstein case, they've already said, yeah, the statement of principles applies to the party. It is something that does governance. That's the weakest one. I'll be completely honest. But that is still one that your predecessors have said that this does provide. I also want to deal with statute. This was touched on briefly. Statute that they cited requires bylaw authorization. There is nothing in the bylaws regarding somebody's significant other or anybody other than that individual. And I'll yield back the remainder of my time.
There is the policy manual.
Thank you. How much time do we have left?
It was
You have
amended
50
because of
seconds.
that.
Very good. I did want to mention something about intent. Because there's this program that was being discussed regarding freedom calls. There's something very interesting about it. It actually it raised money, but it's being represented as if it raised $0 at a time when there was only one fundraising program happening at one time. But there's still money coming in from the party, and there's no explanation given from the LNC thus far that explains how did all this money come in otherwise. And if the last 30 seconds, if Austin Martin wants to say something
And a good
in regards to why that is.
Libertarian Party for the Democrats.
Yeah, 20 seconds.
I didn't hear any of that. You were drowned out.
On intent, asking objective questions about this has subjected me and others to extremist treatment. There is absolutely an intent to hide, to misrepresent, and to obfuscate the truth if anyone
All
asks.
three: hiding, misrepresenting, and
I wasn't on the
obfuscating.
LNC
Also
at the time.
concealing, but he didn't
have
mention
a
that.
horse in that race. I came
He's
afterwards,
covering that up.
and I'm accountable to my chairs. They would like the truth. I would like the truth. Everybody wants
Half of your chairs want you out.
The thing preventing us from getting to the truth is the factionless majority on the LNC.
We are at time.
Thanks.
So, Hannah Goodman announced that she is leaving the Libertarian Party.
Mr. McGee for
The
the
Democrats.
LNC, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you. Members of the Judicial Committee, thank you for your time and consideration. We are here not only to address specific questions concerning issues that have arisen from the adoption of the Special Investigatory Committee report. At the core of these proceedings lie fundamental considerations: the interpretation of our bylaws, the scope and meaning of the Statement of Principles, and the standards of accountability by which our organization operates. The issue before us invites careful scrutiny and principled discourse, for they touch upon the very mechanisms that safeguard member trust and uphold the legitimacy of our decision-making processes. From the very outset, the Libertarian National Committee wishes to unequivocally state that every action pertaining to the Special Investigatory Committee report was carried out in absolute fidelity to the explicit wording of Article 3 of the party bylaws. Nowhere does Article 3 bind the LNC's day-to-day actions strictly to the text of the Statement of Principles. Instead, Article 3 defines the purpose of the Statement of Principles, the process by which it may be amended, and its connection to the party platform. In the present matter under review, it is essential to acknowledge that the LNC acted fully within the scope of its authority, adhering strictly to our governing documents. The adoption of the Special Investigatory Committee report was procedurally proper. The SIC was constituted by the LNC through open deliberation and with full procedural compliance to investigate allegations of conflict of interest and improper business practices with respect to the former chair. The committee's mandate was observed with scrupulous care throughout. At the heart of the SIC's work was a comprehensive investigation. Evidence was gathered from a wide array of sources. Committee members deliberated at length and with candor, and every perspective was given due consideration. The report's findings are not the product of a single hand or a narrow viewpoint. Rather, they reflect the collective judgment of a diverse group of committed members, all striving for accuracy and fairness.
You know we agree, Arden.
The adoption of the SIC report is, contrary to the petitioner's claims, a reflection of the LNC's dedication to self-examination, accountability, and the ongoing improvement of our internal practices. The recommendations presented by the SIC were specifically designed to identify and correct vulnerabilities within our existing policies and procedures. These recommendations have not remained theoretical. Rather, they have been actively integrated into the LNC's policy manual. Most notably, we have instituted stronger financial oversight protocols and established clear mechanisms to identify and mitigate potential conflicts of interest. Furthermore, we've also adopted an ethics policy. These changes are tangible evidence that the procedures in the light of the alleged actions of the former chair. We must also recognize a universal truth inherent to any complex investigatory process: the possibility of human error. be it in the form of omissions, inaccuracies, or misinterpretations. It can never be entirely eliminated. However, it bears special emphasis that there is no credible evidence to suggest that any errors in the report were the product of intentional misrepresentation or malicious design. The members of the SIC took their mandate with utmost seriousness. They approached every element of their charge with diligence and professionalism. Their review of the available evidence was thorough, and their conclusions were arrived at with the greatest care and deliberation. Their work was demanding in every sense, requiring not only considerable time and expertise, but discernment, patience, and a willingness to engage thoughtfully in the process while acknowledging the contentious nature of their task. Throughout, committee members were engaged one another in discussion and ensured that every relevant piece of evidence was evaluated with care. At the crux of the petitioner's argument is the assertion that the SIC's report adoption constitutes material misrepresentation in violation of the statement principles and Article 3 of the bylaws. If this committee rules that the actions of the LNC are in fact bound by the statement of principles, the next matter is to determine the standard for misrepresentation and whether anything in the SIC report meets that standard. The LNC submits that any standard for misrepresentation must consider intent. A ruling that equates any factual error, omission, or interpretive difference, no matter how unintentional, with actionable misrepresentation would set a perilous precedent for this organization and for the work of all future committees of this body. First and foremost, it is a fundamental tenet of justice, both in our internal governance and in broader tradition of common law, that intent matters. The difference between an honest mistake and willful deceit is not a trivial distinction. It is the very cornerstone of fairness in adjudication. If the Judicial Committee were to adopt the standard seemingly implied by the petitioner, one that disregards its intent entirely and holds the LNC or any other committee member strictly liable for any error as material misrepresentation, the result would not only be unjust, but profoundly destabilizing to the orderly administration of our party. Such a precedent would have sweeping and deeply problematic consequences. It would chill open and forthright debate, as committee members and party officers would be compelled to second-guess every word, every conclusion, and every recommendation, lest an inadvertent error later be construed as a punishable offense. The incentive to serve, already demanding in terms of time, expertise, and emotional labor, would be eroded as the risk of personal censure or collective nullification would loom over every act of good faith. This would discourage volunteer participation and undermine the very spirit of collaborative self-government that defines our party. Moreover, the practical outcome of such a standard would be to render nearly all committee work vulnerable to appeal, second-guessing, and reversal on the most minor of technical grounds. Even spelling mistakes or inadvertent omissions could provide a basis for declaring a report and the reforms it underpins null and void. The work of party governance would become ensnared in a perpetual cycle of appeals, leaving the party paralyzed at moments when decisive action and reform are most needed. In short, the adoption of a strict liability standard for misrepresentation would transform the statement of principles from a philosophical guidepost into a weapon for procedural gamesmanship. It is critical for the committee to consider: should every error, however trivial or unintentional, be grounds for voiding an otherwise valid and constructive process? The LNC submits that to do so would be to take leave of one's irrational faculties. The petitioners have also requested that the SIC report be voided and remanded to the LNC. If this request is in good faith and an attempt to correct any errors, there's no need for the Judicial Committee to grant this request. A mechanism already exists to make changes or corrections to an adopted report. That is, amending something previously adopted. Since the adoption of the SIC report nearly 5 months ago, the LNC has spent considerable time over several meetings discussing the SIC report and addressing concerns from LNC members. At no point has a substantive amendment been offered to the SIC report. The LNC acknowledges that the SIC report would have been better if the SIC had been provided with all the documentation they requested. Key persons of interest declined or ignored the requests from the SIC for interviews, most notably the former chair and her domestic partner. Recommendation 3 of the SIC report advises the LNC to continue to seek additional documentation and list the documentation to be requested. To date, none of the additional documentation has been provided to the LNC, either because it continues to be withheld, no longer exists, or never existed in the first place. Neither the SIC nor the LNC have subpoena powers, and so there's no way for either committee to obtain additional documentation absent cooperation from key persons of interest. To reiterate, the SIC came to the conclusions they did based on the evidence they were provided. The LNC recognizes that no system is infallible and that robust processes must allow for the correction of genuine material errors. Yet such corrections must be based on evidence. To demand perfection in all things is neither realistic nor just. To equate every error with actionable misrepresentation is to render impossible the work of any committee or officer. The process which led to the creation of the SIC report was thorough. The resulting recommendations and reforms have already yielded demonstrable improvements in our internal controls, particularly in our financial oversight and our protocols for managing conflicts of interest. These outcomes, far from being indicative of malfeasance, are evidence of a healthy, responsive, and principled organization. To retroactively nullify this process solely on the basis of unintentional or inconsequential errors would not only undo necessary reforms, but would discourage future leaders from undertaking the difficult and thankless work of organizational stewardship. It is the responsibility of this committee to affirm a standard that recognizes good faith and allows for the correction of honest errors without resorting to disproportionate remedies. In closing, the Libertarian National Committee respectfully submits that its actions, including the creation, investigation, and adoption of the Special Investigatory Committee report, were wholly consistent with the explicit language of Article 3 of the bylaws and in no way violate the statement of principles. The process was deliberate, principled, and conducted entirely within the scope of the authority granted by our governing documents. Any errors in the report were unintentional and do not rise to the level of material misrepresentation. The committee is urged to consider the far-reaching implications of a ruling that would treat every unintended factual error as grounds for overturning duly adopted reforms. The work of this party depends on the willingness of its members to serve, to deliberate, and to act in good faith, learning and adapting as challenges arise. We ask the Judicial Committee to affirm the validity of the LNC's decisions, to recognize the integrity of the process, and to uphold a standard that honors both the principles of liberty and the practical realities of principled self-governments. Thank you. I welcome questions from the committee.
All right, that should conclude the opening statements. We move now to the round one of questions. The order of the committee members was decided by AI random draw after alphabetizing the list and then shuffling the numbers. Mr. Montoni is currently not here, so we will go directly to Mr. Krawchuk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Beautiful day here in Pennsylvania. I hope everything is nice for everybody else. I'm going to go through as an outline the relief requested, and I'm going to start with the end and work backward. So these questions will be going to Mr. Roos initially. Number 5, declare that Angela did not violate her fiduciary duty or commit embezzlement. Are you suggesting that we conduct our own SIC report?
I'm suggesting that based on the findings of the SIC report, is there enough in that report to satisfy the SIC's claims?
But that's different.
That she violated her fiduciary duty or
from saying that she didn't do it.
Theft, however they phrased it in different ways.
You done asked too much.
Okay. So if the SIC report would have all the information that we would need then, and we would not need to go beyond that.
I don't think we need, in this entire appeal, I know a lot has been said outside of the SIC report, but I believe all our answers are actually in the SIC report.
So it is sufficient.
Right. Oh, that's my question.
So then it is factual.
All right. So
what?
I didn't see anywhere in the bylaws where we could declare that she didn't violate her fiduciary duty or anything like that.
Wait, if all the answers are in the SIC report,
whether or not the SIC
then you're
report
acknowledging it as
was
correct, as
proper
valid,
and properly passed. True?
Your entire argument is that it's not.
Okay, well, if JJ says it's true,
and that's incomplete.
I would say I wouldn't disagree with him on this matter. I think just in terms of general jurisdiction, if you have jurisdiction here, you're able to
follow up on that?
You may want to consider taking some type of relief in that direction, even if it's not exactly what I asked.
I don't believe we have the authority to declare that she did not violate her duty. I think we can only just void decisions of the LNC in this case. Is that a true statement?
That is what that's what I believe as well. Then yes.
Okay. So number 5 is really outside of our authority, and we can't do anything about it.
Very good.
Okay. Number 4, declare that the party's actions based on material of misrepresentation are null and void, regardless of parliamentary compliance. It's really the same thing. We would have to conduct our own SIC study to see if the SIC is correct or not. Is that a true statement?
I don't. This is
Did
not
you
a very
do
useful page that's up.
I believe.
I can.
Go ahead, JJ.
Do you want me to answer?
Sure. Go ahead.
Yes. I believe that you could reach that conclusion by looking through the SIC report.
How would I identify misrepresentation? I mean, it was mentioned earlier. What are those standards for misrepresentation?
Are you asking me that question?
Yes. Well, no, I don't want to know what the standards are for misrepresentation.
Okay. Well, I think you would have to take a look at each individual case. One standard that I would say would be if the SIC misrepresented statute plainly and then used
I'm sorry,
it.
excuse me,
That would be a
misrepresented. Excuse me, I missed that word. If misrepresented what?
Statute.
What does statute have to do with what we're doing here?
They have made representations regarding statute.
We are not qualified to speak on statute here.
You are qualified to speak on their representations of it.
Right.
Well, again, what does statute have to do with anything we're doing here?
The statute, if somebody says this is a violation of the statute in an SIC report, I believe that the JC could look and determine if there was a reason, if it was reasonable to assume that this was an actual violation.
You'd have us become lawyers?
Interpretation of statute.
I'm not a lawyer. I couldn't.
You would have us become lawyers, sir.
Law is a mess as it is. I would just add my own standard to it.
Well, I think that you could. I think
You think
there
you
are
can
some
lawyer?
things,
Wow.
much like interpreting a stop sign.
Right. Plain language.
You can determine that a stop sign means that you are supposed to stop. It's very clear.
But a
Yes,
stop
but
sign
nobody
is not
stops at
legal
stop
statute.
signs. It's very clear. All right, let's move on away from that.
Okay.
So the point is, it's a matter of opinion.
I think it can be more than a matter of opinion.
Well, one person's misrepresentation is another person's Bible. And your stop sign analogy is a good one, because nobody stops at stop signs. Okay, let me see. Let me look at my notes here a second.
I like Ken a lot more today.
Okay, nope, that was it for that one. Number 3, if the resolutions were validly adopted, void all the motions and resolutions adopted by the LNC as of June 9th. You know, I looked a couple times and I couldn't find a list of all those motions and resolutions.
Stuff was somewhere else.
Did I miss it?
There were 2 motions and resolutions.
You're asking, the resolutions were in fact found to be void for lack of notice.
And then they were readopted.
No, that's not answering my question. It said void all the motions and resolutions adopted by the LNC, etc. I looked a couple of times and I could not find a list of those motions and resolutions. Did I miss that?
Yeah, they would be in the minutes. That's where I got them.
Right.
Okay, so it's not
you didn't
in
submit them in your appeal.
Not in the appeal. No,
oh
isn't that
my
kind of vague though? Because they do a lot of motions and resolutions. You're against every single one of them?
It was a special meeting. It was a special meeting explicitly for that purpose.
Was that a yes or a no? Is it all of them?
Yes.
Some of them?
There were 2.
And I believe there were 4 total.
Right. There were.
Oh my God.
And then they were condensed into 2, and those were the ones that were readopted.
The first one was the adoption of the SIC report. The second one was a motion to release executive session, which technically was not an original main motion. The third one was a motion relating to Ms.
Jake, they didn't have time to read their own appeal, okay?
McCardle,
they submitted
not
it
holding office
3 days beforehand.
I believe something akin to a
they don't know what it
censorship.
says.
That one was repealed. The fourth one dealt with fundraising for the possibility of litigation. That one was, I shouldn't say repealed, that one, those last 2 were found out of order for failure to provide
And then
notice.
they were readopted.
No, they were not.
They were readopted. They were not found out of order. They were declared null and they were readopted.
And they were only declared
undo
null
the
as
the third
like
one? What was that third one
courtesy.
against Ms.
It was like, okay,
Ms.
fine.
Harlow
In case you think that's a problem, we'll go through this
They were
again.
not found out of order.
The third one dealt with
I'm increasingly feeling
how
that
I
way,
can
Dustin, based
characterize
on
it.
how people are familiar
Let me
with it.
pause. You said that they repealed it?
It was not repealed. It was found to be void for lack of notice. So it's not one that would be a live issue at this point.
So, yeah, but you said all the motions and resolutions. So you want us to reverse that one as well?
That one is no longer there, so you couldn't reverse it.
Ken's gunning for
could we
best in
reverse
show.
that? Reverse the action.
Reverse
that
what
they
we
took?
can't reverse.
It just feels that
I feel like I'm playing
it's
bucket.
vague because
Like,
you're not saying exactly what it is you want. We say all of them. Well, we should reverse the one about Ms. Harlow's too. Correct?
Well, the one about Ms. McCardle. In fact, there were two of them relating to Ms. McCardle. The last two were both ruled to be void. So they have not been reversed per se, but they are no longer in
and then,
existence.
no, they were
It is if they were never
readopted.
there in the first place.
Okay.
They were readopted. They are.
I'm not
still
sure
in
I'm getting an
effect,
answer, but
which
let's
you
move
must
on.
know because you
Number
asked
two,
for them to be reversed.
avoid the adoption of the SIC report as the official record or finding the LNC and
This isn't
remand
even
its
fun.
consideration
I
to the
disagree.
LNC.
This is
Well, the second half
this
of that
is
statement
almost
is not
whose
in our
lines
power.
it
We
anyway.
can't
This is
amend
so
anything.
easy.
You can only void stuff. And I think it's been already stipulated that there's been no problem with the parliamentary procedure on it. So only the content is being challenged. Is that a true statement?
Is Mark not here?
No,
Yeah, he's not here yet.
go ahead, JJ, and then I'll answer.
Why don't you answer, because we have a disagreement.
Jason's like, please don't.
Right. We do have a functional disagreement on this, but that's because I believe the way that the motion to adopt the SIC report itself,
You can't make two
with
arguments.
very little notice, was
You have to
using
pick one.
the email
Very little
list
notice.
basically as
We only had
an
3 days to read 100 pages.
intermediary session in order to get by. 5-day
Meredith, this is a
notice,
commentary
because
stream.
basically people
So if you
only
want to
got
watch the other
actual
stream,
copy of
then
the
we recommend
SIC
logging into
report to
Zoom
read within
and watching it
24
without
hours.
commentary.
Jesus.
So that's a parliamentary challenge.
That is a parliamentary challenge,
Yeah,
and it
okay.
can be resolved.
We do
under
not
the-
think we are so
under,
beautiful that you tune in just to
Article
watch
3
us
as well.
watching this.
All right. I had read through that and I thought that was pretty clear. Okay,
There was one thing I did want to add, if I could.
please.
Yes, it was on your claim that you could not remand.
Right.
You actually did remand in the case of Harlow's.
And they die.
Okay.
And specifically, that's the Phillies' decision.
No, it would be her actual. I think it was her actual appeal of her removal.
Well, this may be a good time to jump in there and say that the JC does not recognize precedent. So it doesn't matter what the flawed decision was in the past or the correct decision in the past. Everything is looked at with a fresh eye. So I appreciate it if you just don't mention precedent. Okay. Now, as for the content of that,
That's correct, Michael
of the
Scott.
SIC, the LNC has voted in favor of it. Doesn't that
God.
decision stand on its own, speak for itself?
Could you repeat?
Yeah, the
Over.
SIC, the LNC adopted it. So in terms, excuse me, so in terms of the validity of the contents, the LNC having adopted it, that speaks for the validity of it right there, doesn't it?
No. No, they could adopt something very easily that was invalid.
I mean, technically
that
he's
was
correct.
Untruthful, that violated the bylaws. That wouldn't make it okay.
Okay. You know, I always, my eyebrows always go up when somebody says, oh, it violates the statement of principles, because it seems to be a catch-all that a lot of people use. But let me move on.
I can respond to that.
Oh, please do so.
So this isn't
Please
this.
help.
You should
This
not.
appeal isn't entered into easily. Like when you look at the SIC report and what they're saying and what their definitions are, it's just so separated from the two. It's so grossly, excuse me, from what Mr. McGee said, but it's just they don't match whatsoever. And in many instances, that it feels abusive. And the only way to rein that in is to consider the statement of principles.
Abusive in the Libertarian Party? Sir, welcome home.
It shouldn't be that way. And that's what the statement of principles is supposed to do.
I know. I guess I keep coming back to the same thing. We have to wind up doing our own investigation to find out if there are indeed misrepresentations in there. I mean, you could read through it and you could read somebody's opinion, but everybody's got opinions. As I said before,
yeah, you're right. You're right. I've wanted to avoid this because of how much laborious this is, and I also wanted to make a procedural component to this to avoid that aspect to the JC, because it's the same conversation that was happening in the Phillies appeal, when you had to look at line by line with all of those accusations or charges, and you had to look at, did they match what a policy manual or the definition of a cause was. I mean, that was intense as well, but it was done.
I did not.
Looking
I
at
did not
definitions
support the
of words is
JC
very
on that
intense.
decision, so you're probably
Hector
talking to
Roos.
the wrong person there. Okay. Still, it keeps coming back to, if there are misrepresentations in there, that would require the the JC, to go back and look at all of it and say, is this correct? Is this not correct? And that's clearly beyond the scope of what we do.
Well, I would suggest finding one misrepresentation, sticking to it, because it's not severable.
I'm not sure I followed that.
Find, if it's enough to find one strong misrepresentation, hang your hat on it and call it a day, because it's not severable. They're not severable. Each of these claims in the report are not severable. So you take out that's the only fix.
Well, that goes back to what was mentioned before by Mr. McGee, is that if there's a flaw in there, you can easily correct it. How come you didn't follow that path? Can I ask that question?
Oh, we did. We in fact, from June, and this was filed in September 8th. So we waited 2-3 months to file this, asking for these corrections to be made. This was submitted months ahead of time to the LNC members, and they said, "Well, go pound sand and go to the JC for relief if you really want this changed." And that's how we got here. And I believe Austin Martin, being the representative of the LNC here in the minority, of course, I wanted to also add to that.
I'd be happy to.
Please.
So to have an echo here, I hear a little bit of an echo.
Say that again.
Yeah, thanks. So with misrepresentation, we're talking about an issue of self-consistency. If the statute says X and an SIC report says Y, right, that would be a misrepresentation, right? And so that doesn't take a lot of research to figure out. If I bring this to the attention of my colleagues, and remember, we're on a committee where all the
hang on. You lost me 2 sentences ago. When you start talking about the statutes, I'm not an attorney, nor do I have the stead of an attorney or the education of an attorney.
Nope. And you don't need one to read. You don't need one to read the statute and say, wow, that doesn't match what they said. Right?
Well, the Pennsylvania Constitution says the right to bear arms shall not be questioned, but they question it.
No, it's not an interpretive. It's not an interpretive difference. We're talking about language says hard X, and then SIC report says Y. They do not match. It's not an interpretation. It's a misrepresentation. Right?
They misquoted the statute.
I believe so, yeah, and I believe also the way that the statute chose to cite and the reasoning reveals a lot about the nature and creation of this as an entity. But going to what the matter was that I was trying to kind of get to, the business is happening behind the scenes. So if I want to bring a motion to correct this SIC and say, hey, there's this fact. Well, 2 problems with this. Number one, the facts, if you, like Mr. Roos said, if I correct the fact that the fundraising amount was wrong and grossly understated, the whole case falls apart and the SIC itself becomes inviable. And so, of course, if the factionless majority are all in one mind together, and they are, and that business is being done behind the scenes, then you know whether or not your motions are going to be well received. And frankly, I've made a lot of attempts to try to correct the record and try to deal with some of these factual inquiries. And I'll just tell you, all the things that Mr. McGee was talking about would happen if you guys voided the SIC is happening to me right now because I question it. And again, I'm like totally disinterested. I'm far away from everybody. I'm not personal friends with anybody in any of this. I come in truly just frustrated with what I'm seeing and the lack of transparency in the process with some questions. If it's clear from the facts that, wrongdoing occurred, then I think we should absolutely deal with that. But if we have to change the facts and break the rules to reach that conclusion, it's a good indication. Possible thing to that some.
You're breaking up, sir. You're breaking.
Can you hear
up.
me now? Can you hear me now?
That's better. Yes.
Misrepresentation is not this impossible standard that you can never get out. It's something that's really quite clear, and intent is not that hard either, especially when they're kind enough to explicate their intent.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
Austin is
We do
sending
it all
his
the time.
packets via Mahi Mahi. That's the problem.
If I may say one last thing, very short.
Sure.
No.
In a manner of speaking, I feel I'm doing the majority, the LNC majority, a favor by bringing this to the JC, so that if the JC chooses to avoid this, then they just redo it. It's out of their hands. If the JC upholds it, then there you go. It's I can't do any more. It's not my fault anymore. So that's kind of the flippant attitude I've received in the course
wasting
of
all
the
of
last couple months.
time, Hector.
I hope that
flippant attitude in the LP. Oh, come on, man.
I know.
I've been here for what, 30 years, and it hasn't changed. Okay, there's some good answers there. Thank you. Going to number 1, declare the LNC adoption of the Special Investigatory Committee report as of June 9th, 2025 is in violation of the Statement of Principles and Article 3 of the bylaws. Well, I think going over the other 4 ones, we certainly have covered it. Let me just look at my notes real quick. We already mentioned no precedent, misrepresentation of actual findings. I already said one person's misrepresentation is another person's Bible. And I just want to close with one question. Let me put on my chowder hat and say, convince me that this isn't just sour grapes over a decision you didn't like.
The simple request has been, can you just do this better? It's not there's deficiencies within the SIC report that are glaring. I mean, this is basically saying a program raised $0, yet the party raised hundreds of thousands of dollars during the time that they're talking about. So it's these are not close at all. Issues. Then there's an issue of independence that there's claims of all this. There all this independence defined within within this definition that's actually enclosed in the SIC report. Yet there's already at least one person that openly declares in the SIC report that they have a conflict of interest. How does that make any sense? So
didn't you also want McCardle to be investigated, although she or interviewed, although she declined?
No, that's pretty
wouldn't that be a
convincing.
conflict of interest?
Well, apologies for me not knowing, but what was the final vote on the LNC? It was how many to how many to accept the report?
Austin, do you know?
I should have known that.
Remember
My
right.
apologies.
If I remember right, I'll caveat important facts. Number 1, anybody who voted on this matter had political and personal ramifications in their life, regardless of what their vote was. The safest vote was for it.
I would leave out comments like that, sir. Let's not get personal.
Most of the dissenting minority vote. And so only 2 members had the courage to vote against the adoption of this atrocious document. You asked about sour grapes. I tried really hard to get along with these people. I honestly don't really care. Not a right. This is like I just have to serve my state. It happens to be happening during my tenure, and so I ask some questions, and the result has been nonstop punishment. And so, no, there's no sour grapes. That I don't have an axe to grind here. I don't know why they feel like they need to shut off my email and censure me and go to these extreme lengths to try to intimidate me and attack me because they don't like what I'm saying and because they don't like the implications of where the questions are leading. And that's not my fault. That's just where the answers are. And, I'm gonna let the chips fall where they may kind of guy.
Alexa.
So there's no sour grapes here. I'd very much prefer to work with
willing
Mr.
to actually say it with his whole chest.
I don't see any benefit to trying to have a power struggle with the
all
entire
the 2
board.
people.
Yeah. So basically, but they were all
I don't
blackmailed.
gain anything by it. Frankly, this is a
Uh-huh.
sacrifice
Okay. No, that's pretty convincing. I'll say it again. Now, if we were to void the adoption of the SIC, do you think that there would be any material changes to a replacement SIC? That's a tough question to answer. Maybe you don't know.
If I may.
Sure. That's why I'm asking.
I would say that it would be very unlikely because I
Don't
believe
say if I
most of
may
the
when someone
evidence
asks you a question.
he was relying upon was destroyed.
With
Every
prejudice.
attempt I've had to go and track down this data, regardless of what it is, audit data, Kixie data, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all missing. There's no way to get it. So if you guys void this SIC, I'll just be very frank. The odds are that they would have to do a new clean investigation. And that's what should have happened. We had a clean audit. We had a third-party audit. It may have not been an investigative audit that got into all the details, but they do probe for things like, misallocation. And this should have come up, and it didn't. And that is an interesting thing all on its own. I think they would have done much better to just have an independent investigation.
Refused to do
so if they want to go after this, that would be what they would need to do. At this point, I'm not sure if anybody could come to a conclusion because for whatever reason, the investigators have decided to burn the bridges behind them, so no one can actually. Again, we're talking destruction of evidence, guys. Like, it doesn't get any clearer than that. So I don't think this will come back.
I like my audits dirty.
I think they've burned that bridge down by destroying the evidence.
Okay.
Dirty.
As I said, that's a pretty convincing argument you're giving there. So I turn it over to Mr. McGee. If this does get voided, what would be your process? What would be the result of you doing? Would there be a second SIC?
JJ wants to make a remark.
Yes, I did call up. I did have an answer to your question. It was
Also,
11
no
were in
olives.
favor of
No
adopting
olives in my audits.
committee report, 2 opposed, or abstentions. But I was wondering if I could address the question of sour grapes.
Sure.
I don't like those in my martinis either, or my audits.
Thank you. If you take a look at one of my filings, I very clearly say that Ms. McCardle violated the policy manual. Now, that's not something that is going to be, if this were sour grapes, I would be standing up here saying, she never did anything wrong. You're terrible. You're all terrible, evil people. I'm not saying. I am saying that you know what, there is a problem, but be fair about the criticisms. So I don't think you could call that sour grapes by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay. I will take your opinion into consideration. Let me go back to Mr. McGee.
I don't recommend that.
Is it going to be an SIC too? Is it going to? How would you respond?
Electric
to what
Boogaloo.
Mr. Austin was saying?
First of all, to my knowledge, no evidence has been destroyed. Just because you can't find it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Okay.
Oh.
Would there be an SIC too?
Presumably, we might reconsider some of our findings based on, some of the suggestions that have been presented by the various amici and the exhibits presented. Certainly, there's been no intent by the LNC to not consider any amendments to the SIC. None have been presented. Presenting a report saying, oh, you got this wrong, you got this wrong, you got this wrong, is not the same thing as presenting a properly noticed motion to amend. Mr. Roos has a regional representative who he could bring these issues to, and as of currently, I haven't heard from him. He also has 3 other
representative, and you've never responded to a single email or call that I've ever left you in your history.
In history.
He also has 3 other members of the LNC that reside in his home state that he could have brought this to if he didn't trust me. That has not happened to my knowledge.
Okay. All right. That does answer my question. I'll tell you, I get a lot more sense of what's going on listening to you guys talking back and forth than I have by reading all the words that you guys put together. It takes a lot of time to get through it all. Thank you for your answers. And I found a lot of things convincing. Mr. Chair, I'll turn my time back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tarnoff, you're up next.
Gonna do a best in show competition, guys, for the
so I'd like to
for the JC.
first speak to the respondent. Was the SIC committee and report commissioned specifically as a disciplinary?
No, it was not.
Size?
In fact, explicitly, the original committee that was convened as a disciplinary procedure was disbanded at the same meeting that the SIC committee was convened.
So there was a first SIC commission, and that was to look into disciplinary matters about the chair.
Correct.
But the second one was not.
Correct.
A disciplinary. Okay. Is there anything, any issue then with using it to support disciplinary findings? Normally a disciplinary action is intentional. Then the adoption of the report, the special meeting to adopt the report was not convened as a disciplinary matter, yet it produced disciplinary results. Did you see a notice problem with that?
I mean, the findings resulted in one resolution that pertained to the former chair,
which also had no
but
teeth.
It didn't result in formal disciplinary action.
That resolution was, we think this. That's not disciplinary.
Well, it resulted in a couple of motions for censure, didn't it?
No.
The resolutions were motions of censure, or were the resolutions something else other than motions of censure?
It depends on which motion you're referring to, the one that was voided or the one that was not.
I'm referring to the ones passed on.
Would have been nice if you put them in the report or in the briefing.
August 25th. There were two resolutions, were there not, were passed on August 25th?
Yes.
Yes, there were two. Those were the ones that were adopted after the previous ones were voided.
Okay, and you're saying these are not motions of censure?
I'm not saying that. I do believe that the first motion did result in the censure of Ms. Picardle as the opinion of the LNC.
The second one is not intended as a motion of censure?
Correct.
Okay. Now, with regard to the appointment of the SIC, I would note a couple of passages. I want to read a couple of short passages from Roberts. 63.8, these are steps in a fair disciplinary process. 63.8, a committee whose members are selected for known integrity and good judgment conducts a confidential investigation.
But this was the LNC.
63.12, an investigating committee should quietly conduct a complete investigation, making an effort to learn all relevant facts. Now, those are just steps in a fair disciplinary process. They're not required, apparently. And then I would note 50 sub 18 says, when a committee is appointed for deliberation or investigation, it should represent as far as possible all points of view in the organization.
That this is the Libertarian Party, sir?
I think it's pretty clear, possibly unfortunately for the appellants, that none of those passages are required. They're not voluntary. They're just recommendations. Would you, and certainly nobody has even suggested that that Article 3 or the platform has anything to do with the appointment of an SIC. You can't have misrepresentation there. So my question is it the LNC's position that it is not bound by a requirement to appoint an SIC that is fair and unbiased?
That's
demonstrate that?
that's going to need some unpacking. So let me first start with the fact that the citations in Roberts pertain to a disciplinary process, and the SIC that was convened was not for disciplinary purposes. The motion for censure was passed by motion, not as the result of a conviction at trial through Ronner 63. So that wouldn't necessarily apply. What was your other point?
Well, yes, you're right. These are the steps. The first two passages I read are steps in a fair disciplinary process, and they are speaking to a formal process. But 50 sub 18 it speaks to committee appointments in general. When a committee is appointed for deliberation or investigation, it should represent, as far as possible, all points of view in the organization. The word should is in there, right? It should represent. It doesn't have to, right? It's not required, but it should. Is it the LNC's position that it's improper to look into the composition and the intent in the appointment of the SIC because it's not required, and there's nothing in the claim of misrepresentation that would apply to the appointment of the SIC, and the only thing in Roberts says that it should be, fair and equitable, but there's no requirement. Is that the position of the SIC? I mean, of the LNC?
Well, the fact of the matter is that during the time leading up to the meeting where the SIC was convened, myself and Mr. Nikela actually looked into how much it would cost to actually to put together an independent investigation. And when the amount that was alleged to have been misappropriated, so to speak, is around $50,000, and the potential cost for an independent investigation is close to 20, that doesn't make much sense.
Okay, so it sounds like you're saying that the appointment of the SIC may or may not have been equitable, unbiased, but that
EISIC, get out.
It doesn't matter, and to produce an unbiased report was cost prohibitive.
Communist.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So say we all can.
My third question has to do with the second. Actually, I think you've actually answered that one already. All right. I'd like to speak to the appellant now. How are we to determine the intent of SIC members or the motives behind their appointment without hearing testimony? And do we have the authority to hold a hearing and hear testimony?
I think you're supposed to look at the actions of the LNC. And as I've said to Mr. Krawchuk, it's the action on this SIC report that the LNC has adopted. I think it's self-explanatory what the SIC is. It has claimed its authority under DC law to perform an investigation that could lead to litigation. That's as far as I understand from things that happen outside of this document that we now know about. Is that certainly there was a dialogue in regards to the settlement of the Best lawsuit that's now just been dismissed. that and the interest of that lawsuit and the recommendations in this SIC report do match. But if we're going to go into intent, there is a lot in the record that has been submitted, but specifically in terms of the authority of the JC, what is included there, what it defines itself in, and being consistent about is that is this notion that it is operating under this process to establish litigation. And the last thing I'll say about that is that the LNC has performed this type of special investigatory committee before, for whether it was for the previous Harlos lawsuit or the Vest lawsuit itself. And the reason why those lawsuits survived in court was because the LNC proved it didn't know how to run an independent investigation of itself that could survive a motion to dismiss. And again, this is the same type of practice. They haven't really learned their lesson, from what I can tell. And that's why it was so important when I submitted this this review about the standard that was set and the LNC knows about in regards to the what the independent standard looks like, because it's legitimately, the court has told them this is how you do it, and they're still kind of not following that these procedures. So I hope that answered the question. Did you want to say something, JJ? Yeah.
Yeah. May I add a few things here that have come up within this conversation? If it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm chair, but it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I wanted to say that generally when I do a self-investigation, I usually conclude that I'm a great guy. But I wanted to go very specifically into something that was mentioned here, that this was not disciplinary action, or was not intended to be disciplinary action. If you take a look at page 94 of the SIC report, it says,
Meredith,
based on the
too
findings
busy
and
writing
conclusions of
emails
this
to the
report,
LNC.
and the strength of the evidence supporting them, the SIC recommends that the LNC adopt a resolution finding Angela McArdle unfit to serve as an officer of the Libertarian Party in the future. That could only be accomplished through disciplinary action. That could only be accomplished through disciplinary action at the convention level. So this was something that was very clearly intended to be disciplinary action. Whether or not it was
That's
whether
like
or
saying a
not it
resolution
would be valid
condemning
disciplinary action is another
bombing
matter.
Venezuelan boats
That
is
intent,
disciplinary.
based on that clause, is there.
It's not binding. It doesn't do anything. That's the entire point.
If you're finished, I'd just like to ask, is to produce any, I haven't, maybe I missed it in all the wordage. I didn't see any hard evidence of misconduct, like the misstatement of the statute that was mentioned earlier, or the destruction of evidence, or any hard evidence that that the LNC did not appoint the SIC with an intent to be unbiased.
If I may answer on the statute,
can we receive such, just a clear? Can you send to me or to the Judicial Committee any such evidence, hard evidence that we could pin something on? Because conducting a whole trial to determine these things, with witness testimony is probably beyond our ken.
I'm not certain who's speaking.
Blade Tarnoff.
Turn off.
This is Blade Tarnoff.
Turn off. If you take a look in, it is called Roos Amicus 2. I believe it was submitted around, let me just see what I can get for the date on it. Let's see. It was submitted on, I believe, September the 28th. That includes the problems with the statute, along with a full copy of the statute that they have cited, where you can see the problem. Is that sufficient?
I'm not sure. I did read all the amicus briefs, and I didn't see anything, any hard evidence. I saw opinions and statements.
The appellants are, and they have not said who
claims
destroyed
of
it.
what was said to whom. But I did not recall anything that, like, for
Presumably
example,
the people conducting the investigation.
I mean, is there a statement? I heard a statement earlier that a statute was misquoted in the SIC report.
Yes.
Is that true? And is
Yes.
that in this amicus that you're describing?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Tarnoff, if I may.
Yes.
Respectfully, when the misrepresentation, or I'll use the colloquial term fraud, not offering offense to anyone, extrinsic fraud is extremely difficult to prove because the lie is not what they're putting in, but what they're leaving out. So when extrinsic fraud occurs, it occurs largely through omissions, and misrepresentations that due to those omissions are difficult to prove. And I believe that the question you were asking really went to intent. Where's the smoking gun on intent? How do we know? And I'm going to really quickly, referencing my own amicus at the very top of the last page, there's a reference to a point of parliamentary inquiry, which I raised. I raised this immediately in the aftermath of the hearing in which we adopted the SIC. And I asked specifically what the intent and effect of the motion would be to bar McCardle from office. They refused to answer and insulted me and told me I needed to get mental help because I asked about the effect of that motion. They knew that in asking whether it was expressing an opinion or whether it was a disciplinary action, that I revealed a problem. So they refused to answer because they knew better than to directly incriminate themselves. But despite this, in the remarkable email thread between Mr. Sarwark and Mr. Nikela, Mr. Nikela arguably provably prior to the SIC's adoption, said that we felt that the previously in the meeting prior to the adoption, that we all felt that the goals of the suit had been accomplished. Namely, and it specifies the bar on McCardle from being in office. So they thought it was effective. They certainly thought it was disciplinary and stood in place of the discipline that would be imposed by the court. And then when asked, they covered it up. This happened before the SIC report was passed. There can be no doubt about the intent to run around both procedure and the meritorious truth. I don't think that it's true that nobody stops at the stop sign. I don't think that's actually true. I think that we mostly, even if we choose not to, we know that that's what should happen or ought to happen, right? Especially if there's traffic present. And whenever we get in the habit of not doing so, we put ourselves at great risk of accidents, which is why
the libertarian arguing for stop signs
there.
now. What is
this
world coming to?
Protecting the LNC from reckless behavior, absolutely reckless and perhaps malicious behavior. They knew that what they were doing was outside of their authority, and they tried to bootstrap their way around the rules in order to accomplish that. And when asked, they punished the people asking those questions directly through retaliatory actions and escalations, a lot of them asymmetrical, that would be invisible to the audience.
Fair
Something
point,
that if I were to try to complain about, it wouldn't even be worth the effort because it's just petty nonsense. But sir, I've endured a lot of personal harassment and a lot of mistreatment just for asking these questions. And I think that's a good evidence of the intent that they have to cover this up and to make sure that people can't ask these meaningful questions. The entire LNC response that they gave as their opening statement, the entire thing was a misrepresentation. They sat here and lied to this committee and lied to the party about the standards of investigation. So when it comes to the committee appointments, forget about what the rules outside of it say. The SIC report itself makes the claim that the committee is independent. So we don't need any rules to say whether it should be or must be independent. The SIC report itself claims a high level of independence and a lack of material interest in any of the members. even though on paper that's not true. Kathy Yanuskavich was actually directly involved with the events under investigation. That is defined as a material interest. And it's not like they're just not lawyers sitting in a room. They have counsel actively advising them. I'm led to understand that Oliver Hall actually wrote that paragraph about independence, including the misrepresentation of the statute. I don't know if that's true firsthand, but that's the information that I've been given based on my interviews with members of the SIC and my questions. So, and a direct interface with Mr. Hall himself. So what I'm getting at here is that this is not an accident. This cannot be explained by oops. This cannot be explained by partisanship. This is a direct misrepresentation, and just in the appointment of the committee. If the report didn't say the committee was independent, then it wouldn't be a valid claim for me to say it's the misrepresentation. But it's self-evident. And this doesn't even touch Bill Redpath's admitted activities in New Mexico, which also directly overlap with matters investigated, and in my opinion, exceed what we saw from Miss McCardle. And I'm not trying to raise that as a money. I don't want to go on a witch hunt over it or anything, but the hypocrisy and the impropriety of that.
And she stole 50 grand!
We have
what are you
a very unfair selection
about?
process, and yet this report submits it as being totally above board and highest possible standards. And that is a clear, obvious misrepresentation. I don't see how anyone could see it any other way. Sorry, I yield.
From stop signs to Bill Redpath.
I just want to elaborate. In the appeal brief, pages 16 through 17 discusses the issues of independence and breaks down the issues of independence with each member. Except one I missed apparently, but for the most part, only one person at that time had been identified as having actually truly be independent, meaning, and the other person was actually a member of the LNC during the period of time when Freedom Calls was an active vendor to the party, and this issue didn't come up back then either during that person's tenure. So the main question is, there was a claim there, and a big claim, as I mentioned in my opening statement, that was there an authorization for Angela McCardle to actually perform, to actually work with contract and work with Freedom Calls as vendor? If there was, then why haven't they explained why that authorization was given, why there was no oversight, etc. But the SIC report is quite doesn't really refer to it, answer that question. And of course, that these are intentional questions, as opposed to, and I believe all the answers really are on the SIC report, and you can just pick which misrepresentation do you want to focus in on.
Okay, where is Darth Vader in
independence
this?
or the factual issues? I think
I was thinking more
I think
Bane.
they're all fair game, but to narrow the scope of the work,
You were only
luminous
born
work that
when
would
the
be involved
SIC
to narrow down all of it is, I think, also unfair to the JC. But I think you can narrow down the scope of which representations you want to focus on that seem to be the clearest and most and best defined in the SIC report itself. Thank you.
I agree, Chuck.
Is there a difference between independence and a lack of bias, or are those synonymous?
If it were me, I would say that there is.
They're not synonymous.
Independence is
what?
defined within
He asked a question.
within
It's
the
an either
scope
or.
of the within the scope of the SIC
There is
report.
a difference between
Bias, on the other
independence
hand,
and lack of bias, is what he's saying.
is more general,
Which I agree with.
And I do point this out in the in my reply brief regarding bias, whether there is a where they actually use the term, the SIC report uses the term as for right, where they refer that there's the LNC response actually refers to bias as for bias, both Ms. McCardle and Austin Padgett were solicited for interviews, but either declined or ignored such requests, meaning that the SIC's standard of bias is when a particularized issue would reasonably be expected to impair the objectivity of an individual's judgment. I put that in the page 4, top page 5 of my reply to the LNC response.
I would ask the respondent, does the respondent agree that Mr. Martin was silenced and not fairly allowed to bring his case to the LNC?
I'm very glad you asked that a question. I would be happy to answer. As a result of the ethics policy we passed, one of the revisions provides that LNC members aren't allowed to basically publicly malign other members in public. And he did so publicly multiple times, was asked to retract his statements and said, and plainly refused to. And so a majority of the committee voted to censure because he was unrepentant about following the policy. I'm sure he disagrees with that interpretation of the policy, but I wrote the policy and he was in clear violation of it. It's pretty cut and dry. Like, we asked him to retract the statement multiple times and he did not. And so as a result, he was censured. It had nothing to do with him questioning the SIC report. It had to do with his conduct with respect to other members of the LNC, as well as council.
May I respond to that, sir?
I would ask appellant. I mean, there seems to be ample evidence of potential misconduct in terms of, well, I shouldn't say misconduct, ample evidence of potential bias or partisan action, possibly on both sides. How other than just relying on the procedural aspects and the political aspect of the LNC to hash this out, how is the Judicial Committee supposed to make determinations? I mean, we have to have hard evidence, documented evidence, beyond mere written statements about this. I was told this and I was told that. I mean, it just seems like a very difficult process. Assuming we even have the authority to look into whether or not there was bias on this committee. I mean, the Roberts passages that I read say that there should be no bias, but they don't require it. So we'd have to find that requirement somewhere else. It's certainly different from misrepresentation. So assuming we could even find that requirement,
yeah, Jake, you're biased because of the facts.
How, from a practical
the
standpoint,
facts will bias you.
Could the Judicial Committee, adjudicate it without taking testimony? I mean, it seems to me, on this Zoom call, both parties seem to be passionate and seem to be sincere. It's very difficult, without a trial to unravel this. So, I mean, what can we do besides just simply relying on the procedural aspects of this? That's to the appellant.
Thank you, Mr. Charnoff. Let me jump in here and say that it is. I knew from the beginning that this was going to be a difficult issue for the JC because the report is voluminous by itself, and the task is to review it like if it was a list of charges that was done in past JC appeals, but this is different because this is two pages of charges versus 18,000 words in very small print on basically 100 pages. That's a huge difference of work. So as I kept on reading these materials, I think let's first of all let's talk about authority, because I believe the respondent has taken the wise approach of saying, well, we're not bound by the statement of principles, so really, even if there is misrepresentation, so what? and he can correct me if I'm misrepresenting that.
Thank you, Jake, for wasting our time this afternoon.
Is that as I communicated earlier, any misrepresentation found in the SIC report, and this isn't, I don't necessarily want to talk about minor issues of, oh, they misquoted a statute here, but they're relying heavily on this issue of independence. They're relying heavily on issues of practical issues regarding theft, right? When there's actual explanations, there are alternative explanations that they don't provide, but they certainly agree that one of the alternatives I provided is viable. Let's just say that. Pick one. Pick one of these issues that we all agree on, and then see if there's if the claim of misrepresentation can be supported, in other words, by the lack or the text itself. I think that's fair. I'm just trying to say we should at this point try to narrow the scope of what this analysis should look like. You want to call it a trial, like putting the SIC report on trial, sure, but it is a process, and I think doing our best to narrow that would be useful, and answering the big question regarding the statement of principles, because there is a significant debate that's being carried out outside of this hearing, whether the statement of principles is practical for a modern libertarian party, as well as the membership pledge that is based on that the membership pledge. Yeah, right. And so I hope that answers the question. I'm trying to keep it simple, because I think the approach should be a scalpel and not a chainsaw. Austin,
if I may,
well, again, I'm not sure what the JC can do, unless they're, it's up to you, I think, to produce some hard evidence that shows that there was bias.
Bill is an extremely credible thorn in the side of the
Constitution of the SIC. So if you could provide some hard evidence that shows there's bias, like, and a misstatement of a statute may or may not be that. I mean, it depends on if it's a material misstatement of the statute, or if it's just mistaking an and for an or something like that. Or I don't know how you document it, like a destruction of evidence, but
yes,
if you have something that can show that there is that there was an intentional bias to the Constitution or execution of the SIC, then it would still remain to be determined whether that could actually be litigated, because as I said before, the RONR clearly says that these are things that should happen, but don't bind the LNC to do them. So we would have to find that somewhere else.
Mr. Tom, you are correct.
Something to add.
I'm sorry, sir. Yes, you have a good point. And I believe there is direct evidence of bias in the form of statements by involved parties, multiple involved parties, that clearly demonstrate that bias. And I would refer you to my amicus, as well as Mr. Chatterton's amicus, which was just filed prior to this hearing, which goes into great detail about the evidence of that bias. But as was previously noted, bias is not itself a problem. Bias is evidence that goes to intention. So the standard here is not, I don't think you need a trial. You're not trying to prosecute fraud, right? What you're trying to do is determine whether or not this report, right, conforms with the principles of justice and fairness. So my suggestion is that you would treat it kind of like an appellate. Oh, I'm sorry. If you're speaking, I can't hear you. I can see that you're talking. I don't want to talk over you, but I can't hear you, sir.
No, I was not speaking. I was speaking to my son.
Oh, I'm sorry. So bias goes to intention. So what you do is look at this, in my opinion, like an appellate court. The evidence and the decision has already been made in the proverbial lower court, and now you're looking to see whether or not that decision conformed with the principles and the rules and the laws that govern our organization. And so in looking at that, when we look at whether or not there was misrepresentation, bias would be something that would indicate whether or not that misrepresentation is more likely than not intentional or unintentional, or whether or not there might be something to be gained would be another evidence that would go towards intention, right? We can't automatically know that, and I don't expect you guys to know that. We're not asking you to declare that they committed fraud. However, we are asking that we recognize a spade for a spade and call it what it is. The problem is that the SIC makes inconsistent statements. It lacks self-consistency. When it argues against itself and provides alternative explanations buried in the notes that conflict with the main assertions, that's a problem. But when you talk about evidence of bias, there has been a lot
Pronunciation is
submitted, and
important.
worse than just evidence of bias. I submit to you that between the point of parliamentary inquiry, which I raised earlier,
resolution.
right, which
What?
is item, I think,
They
number
need some
15
conflict
in my appendix
resolution.
of my amicus. You can actually see the point of parliamentary inquiry. That is, yes,
They're
number
resolved
15.
to go through this today.
Oh my gosh.
In that you can see that they avoid that question. And then later in the
I'm
remarkable
going on a
email
nice
thread,
walk right
which
now.
is after that point of
I
parliamentary
could.
inquiry, Stephen Nikela admits that before the SIC was passed, he had met with Sarwark and the Vest legal team and characterized that meeting by saying, we all felt that the goals of the Vest
Dustin,
suit
yes.
had been achieved.
Austin is here.
So that statement
Here's
is
a
a
subject
direct
matter
statement of intent
subject matter
before
expert.
the SIC's passage. Before we passed it, he already knew what the outcome would be and the effect that it would have on the Vest suit and was negotiating with it ahead of time. It was a foregone conclusion. We don't know exactly how far in advance that meeting took place, and perhaps Mr. Nikela would like to shed some light on exactly when that meeting took place. Maybe that would help to clear up some details. I see his hand is up, so if nobody objects.
Okay. Mr. Nikela is fine with me.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody. I just wanted to make it very clear that the meeting with Sarwark and the Beth attorneys was in relation to the Beth versus LNC case that was just recently dismissed. Our attorneys from Ackerman were present. Mr. Hall was present. We simply listened. This was a discussion where they were at the time offering a settlement, and we simply listened, and we did not agree to the settlement terms. We heard what they had to say. We didn't offer anything. We didn't explain our legal strategy or have any discussions on whether or not their goals have been reached. What I meant by in the email to Mr. Sarwark that was published was that when I said that the goals of the Beth suit have been reached, what I mean is that they are moot. And that was essentially our argument in the dismissal of the suit, is that whatever goals they were seeking to reach have already either seemingly been achieved because Ms. McCardle had resigned from the committee. Therefore, there's nothing else to litigate, and the judge should dismiss the case, which they, of course, did. So that is what I meant when I meant that the goals of the Beth suit have been achieved. I just want to make that very clear.
I may reclaim and redirect. You also discussed the bar mooting one of the requested reliefs, so the bar on McCardle's tenure would have been an effective thing that you were counting on. My only question is, what date did that conversation take place, Mr. Nikela?
It was months ago. I don't remember the exact date. This was, I believe this was after the SIC had been adopted, because the LNC had voted that Ms. McCardle was unfit to serve as an officer of the organization, which I understand that the Beth legal team wished to, or Ms. Vest was attempting to litigate that the court should put in an injunction that she cannot serve as an officer of a nonprofit organization, which, quite frankly, I don't believe they have that authority. The court doesn't have the authority to bar somebody from serving on a nonprofit corporation, but, certainly the LNC could say whether or not they believe somebody is fit to serve. we saw in the final dismissal what the judge had to say about that, but I'm not sure if that's neither here nor there.
In August.
Can I just interrupt you? Look, this is getting a little bit too much in the weeds for me. Mr. Martin, please, I would personally be very interested in seeing any evidence. I know I'll review. I have read your brief. I'll read it more carefully. But if you have any documented evidence, not merely, I was told this and they said that, but something in writing or recorded that clearly shows bias in either the Constitution or the execution of the SIC. I would be interested in seeing that, and I hope you will forward that if there is anything else. If there's anything of that nature that you can come up with. My last question to the appellants is, isn't this a bit of a tempest in a teapot? I mean, we're only talking about a censure here. It seems like a lot of Sturm and Drang over a censure.
Sturm and Drang in a teapot.
I mean, do you see any? I don't see any lasting effects. All it is a statement, or maybe two statements that that the LNC doesn't like you, or like Ms. McCardle, and isn't this a bit of a tempest in a teapot? I mean, how much effort is it worth
doesn't like any.
to argue with their opinion?
Go ahead, JJ.
If I may, I see a lot of things in the SIC report that are grossly inaccurate. And I think
you have to have
where
evidence of that, you fuck.
It's not
you can't
so
just keep
much
saying
just
it and make it true.
But
it can
it
be
is the
grossly
comments
inaccurate for
in
Halloween.
the SIC report.
Seems like a hot new thing.
As someone who knows what you're going to be for Halloween, that kind of does track.
Of those things, some of which
I feel like that's very accurate.
I believe
depending.
do misrepresent.
No. As long as you play the character correctly, you will be grossly inaccurate.
I think are virtual McCarthyist in nature, where they are trying to find some sort of a connection.
You'll be grossly, I'll be inaccurate.
Something let me put it this way: something improper between Ms. McCardle, between the fact that Ms. McCardle hired somebody who lived within a mile of her house, that was somehow improper.
They actually said that wasn't necessarily improper.
Suggestion that wasn't any way improper.
They didn't say it. They said
there are a number of things like that in that report.
They said it was not necessarily improper.
I think if they would be, again, remanded.
You know how I know? Because we read it.
Take another look
on the air.
A different matter.
With funny
4
voices.
Hours.
4 hours.
Okay. I reiterate my request for any hard evidence, documented, written evidence, not just recounting of conversations that we could definitely hang our hat on, because I don't think we can actually conduct a trial to determine the truth of who's correct and who isn't. It's too difficult, and of course all of that assumes that we can even find that bias is in the construction, the Constitution or the execution of the SIC is actually even a basis for overturning any decision by the LNC. I yield my time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tarnoff. I was slated to be next. I have no questions for this round. I may have some later. Mr. Kinsella is not present, so we go to Mr. Stratton. Mr. Stratton? You don't appear to be muted, but we're not hearing anything.
Might be
Hello? Can you hear me?
There you go.
That's
Okay.
what I thought.
Yeah, it took a second for my condenser to warm up, I guess. Most of my questions have kind of been covered
That's right.
here. I would like to see what Mr. Latham says, so I'll yield my time to Mr. Latham.
All right. All righty.
You could just
Mr.
ask
Latham?
ChatGPT, you'll get the same answer.
All right. Just going through my notes.
I'm not even joking. They're not your notes.
Mr. Martin, you mentioned that fraud and misrepresentation as used in the statement of principles are the same thing. So is that your position, that they're the same thing?
I would say that's a sloppy way to characterize it. They can be used colloquially, but misrepresentation is distinct from fraud. Fraud denotes intent. I believe in this case, it is the same thing, but that's based on the totality of the evidence and not a general statement of equivocation.
And maybe I need to clarify, just as used in the statement of principles, are fraud and misrepresentation the same thing?
Not necessarily. I think that fraud always involves misrepresentation, but misrepresentation does not always involve fraud, such as all ducks are birds, but not all birds are ducks.
Why do you think that, along with robbery and trespass, are in the statement of principles?
Because they inherently violate the core tenets of libertarianism. They inherently discredit and invalidate our ideology. These are prohibitions that we don't just seek to enforce on the government, but in fact, if there is a legitimate purpose of government, it would be to restrain that exact kind of behavior. And whether we agree on should that be private or should that be public, that is generally the province of the use of force, any kind of force, institutional force, physical force. And I believe that it's important in this case that we stay true to those principles because they are what protect us and separate us from the duopoly fraudsters. We don't have to be like them, and this is why.
And maybe, and Mr. Martin, maybe I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Roos. I'll let him even come back on. Oh, he's even got his hand up. So I just pasted in that third paragraph of the statement of principles into the chat. It seems like the relevant part is that we're denying government to do certain things, but where governments exist, we support the prohibition of robbery, trespass, fraud, and misrepresentation. So I guess, and I am happy to let Mr. Martin continue. I didn't mean to cut him off in this discussion, but since Mr. Roos is the lead appellant, just continue the conversation.
I will.
Does it extend beyond governments being in the statement of principles for our purposes on the Judicial Committee, Mr. Roos?
Yes, 100%. We have the reason why these rules exist is for us to create a libertarian society. Any society is based on mutual trust. So whenever you have any of those, the long laundry list there that are prohibitions and nasties that are in the statement of principles, you have the violation that occurs hurts that trust in the society and contributes to a breakdown of society. And then, of course, all that's left in terms of recourse is violence. That's how we got there. 100%. That is how we got there. And the reason why, if you heard an earlier question about what's the big deal here, it's that trust. It is that trust. We have a prominent member of the party there's a chilling effect from the cause of this SIC report and its resolutions toward everybody to work with Angela McArdle. There's an error regarding whether the LNC will pursue legal action against her because that's what the SIC report authorizes. So yes, there is a lot here to unpack, and this is a conversation that's been brewing for. We're 9 months. We're 10 months in, frankly, from the start of all this conversation and these allegations. So yes,
you did this to us, Jake.
We have to start from somewhere in terms of returning to that point of trust, and I hope the JC can does the right thing.
This is why you've been banished to the gulag for the business list.
Start from a point of clarity on this.
Okay, I just want to kick it back to Mr. Did you have anything to add to that?
If it's okay, sir, yes. I would just add that the prohibition on fraud, for instance, is not something that we only prohibit in government spheres, but that if there is a government, fraud in general in the society ought to be prohibited. If that's the position that we hold, then it holds true that in this governance board, arguably, that it should also
Jake,
apply.
it was really long. Okay.
And that if we do not uphold that principle, that it severely injures the party's reputation and public image. And to echo what Mr. Roos said
Jake,
about
you know
the
how I feel
significance
now.
of this, we're talking about
so many
potential,
things.
not just potential legal liability, but real jeopardy from
Yes,
several
over
different
revolution,
angles.
all my
Because this
articles will be
SIC
assigned
report
reading
is
for every
not
member of the
narrow.
party.
It focuses on people who are now, like Mr. Kennedy, who is in the administration and provides a vector of attack and useful
Print
idiocy
copies of
for
my
us to be
theses will
tools
line the
in
convention
political
wall.
attacks from the establishment based on our sloppiness. We need to do better.
Okay, and I did hear Mr. Jacobs wanted to be heard. I see Mr. Roos, your hand is up, presumably on his behalf. So I see in the chat, Mr.
JJ.
Yes, from a purely procedural perspective, yes, the Article 3, Section 1 has brought the statement of principles into binding force within the entire Libertarian Party, including the LNC, including the Judicial Committee, frankly. It is now one of, by virtue of that clause, it is now something that does, and I believe in the words of D. Frank Robinson, tether the statement of principles to the party.
Okay, I'm going to get
Dustin,
thank you, Mr. Jacobs and everybody. I'm going
I
to get
will
maybe
say
a little
that Carl able to do calculus declare that math was a visual construct. So
just asking this
we've got competing
hypothetical.
claims.
So an LNC member robs another LNC member, and by rob I mean one hypothetical member takes possession of the property from another hypothetical member, from that member's person or in that member's presence, by violence or by putting that member in fear. Does this judicial committee have the authority to fashion a remedy or do anything else to make whole the wronged LNC member?
I believe it's there has to be an LNC action in which the appeal an appeal can be made to. So you have not described to me an LNC action.
How would the LNC address that? Like, what authority would the LNC have to address that?
Possibly removal of the person in question, the trial, and essentially the disciplinary action that can be appealed to the JC.
Okay, but the LNC can remove or suspend a member for a lot of things, right? At least it's got to have cause, right? So isn't that, let's stop there. Let's make it too complicated.
If you're talking about what the cause is, as we've debated this issue at length for the last year, yeah, whatever
the cause can be beyond robbery, right?
Right. Yes, there's many causes that can apply to a disciplinary action.
Okay, so maybe changing a hypothetical then. An hypothetical LNC member interferes with the property of another member. You would say this by the same token, this judicial committee has the authority to fashion a remedy or do something to make whole that wronged LNC member who has been trespassed against by another LNC member?
Make whole as in return property or order someone to return property. I think Mr. Krawchuk had said earlier that, and I agree with what he said, that it's the limitation is just voiding the LNC action. That's all the JC has available to it under the bylaws.
So you're
not voiding the action.
Or not voiding the action, of course. Thank you, JJ.
Help me out here, just so we're all clear. Not void the action. So the LNC would authorize some kind of trespass against another member, and by not voiding it, the LNC is, I guess, participating in that.
For argument's sake, the JC has faced this sort of situation, that sort of scenario before, so I know why it comes to mind. Where particularly like litigation
Alexa,
in Michigan, where who owns what, and who's disturbing what process. that could have been appealed to the
I
JC.
want the cat to keep talking.
Under the same kind of reasonings.
Not our, you don't mean our
cutest
JC,
little
the
meow.
national JC?
I mean the national
Yes.
Well, yes, the LNC had authorized action in the past against a group that had been claiming, whether it's like Virginia or some other group in Michigan or some other group in any other state.
Okay, so we're not really challenging the Michigan affiliate. The challenge was to what the LNC did in reference to that Michigan.
Right. That's the LNC action that could be appealed, and then the JC would consider it and either take no action or avoiding the action.
Okay, thank you. And then, Mr. Jacobs, while you're here, I'm just also going to paste into the chat. This is section 43.
I'm on a phone.
I'll send it
Well, but I think because you have just an encyclopedic knowledge of our parliamentary authority, I'll just reference it's 4321.
Oh my God.
Refraining from attacking a member's motives. And I'm just going to ask
I've heard that one from Rob before.
Is there a better way, in mindful of that language, is there a better way for a party member to make a complaint about a factual dispute over the veracity of an action of the LNC without calling it misrepresentation, without calling it fraud, in a way that comports with that language from the party's parliamentary authority?
Well, no, I'm familiar with that. I just looked up what you referred to, and there is, however, a very important.
I haven't seen him, Alexa, but you may be right.
And I'm just going to get it for you if you give me a second. Let's see. No, that's.
Alexa, just get in there and like take your mic, unmute yourself, and say things. Again, so Alexa, he's a subject matter expert on incoherent statements. Dustin reminded us of this. It was very valuable to have there. They don't. They don't work.
No, there is a rule about a motion that could not be it's actually 39.7. There is a rule about introducing things that could not be stated in debate, such as attacks of a member's character. However,
Jake woke up and chose violence today.
Except it notes beginning at that. Except
Jake, you can make Rob med.
Censure or a motion or disciplinary proceedings.
So med.
So in those cases where there would be something, you could actually look at a member's character or motives, be it unnecessarily harsh or whatever, that would be considered.
Okay, thank you. And are those exceptions at play here in this appeal?
They could very well be, since we are talking about something that is claimed a violation of the rule.
So any alleged violation of the rules allows people to call others frauds, liars, you're misrepresenting, and not be out of order?
I couldn't say. So right now I feel like
probably may actually be in order under normal cases.
Comrade Latham's questions are not germane to the subject at hand.
Fraud,
like he's mad at them for calling it fraud. That
but
doesn't have to do with overturning the
circumstances where you would be talking about something that would be dealing with a motion to censure or a motion relating to disciplinary procedures, which this kind of is, that may require looking into the motives of the person. It may require citing. I personally don't do it, but I would not say it was necessarily out of order.
Okay. Oh, and I see Mr. Roos's hands up. Mr. Roos.
If you just to contribute a little bit to this, is that the rules exist to keep a healthy and productive society together and cohesive. The fact that we called member here
together and
is
cohesive.
LNC members,
also connected.
And Angela McCardle had resigned, and when
attached.
there is a conflict on the board,
bonded
that
even
is an option that you're supposed that is that Ron prefers, as opposed to what we've seen. So I just wanted to point that out, as we may lose focus on that sometimes.
Yeah, I personally would not, just if this were being used in debate, I would personally not find saying that another member had misrepresented something to be out of order.
Okay. And Mr. Martin, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I think there's a couple of very important distinctions. If we were having a discussion about a motion to, thank Thomas Massey, and I criticized someone's motives in the middle of a proceeding that's not about that, right? That would be out of order. But if somebody brought a motion saying, or some kind of instrument
None
saying
of this is
that
relevant.
there
I
was
don't know why we have the time
misrepresentation,
questioning.
that is not out of
We
order.
want a nap. It's been
That
2
is
hours.
not what
Nothing's
that
been said.
applies to. And so in a situation
2 out
where
of the 5
misrepresentation
problems
is the
have been
focus of the
ignored
question,
already.
We're finishing
it
item 4.
necessitates our ability to look into those things. Otherwise, we're saying that misrepresentation is completely off the table and that lies are okay, right? Which we know that they're not. There has to be a way to bring the truth into scope and to do so appropriately. So these rules are designed to prevent improper attacks on the motive. And I want to make an analog here that's really important, because I'm sure there's a situation that comes to mind that's already been mentioned. Mr. McGee incorrectly characterized my statements, my public statements about the SIC. I was not attacking the members or any particular person. I was attacking the language of a self-refuting proposition. I had a screenshot of the SIC report's statement on independence, and I said, this is straight up fraud, publicly on my personal X account, which had very few followers.
Why are
And
we
they decided to
litigating
immediately censure me, or attempt to do so.
what
He
Austin
incorrectly
Martin
stated
has
that they
said?
did. It actually did not
This
pass.
is about the appeal
They
of
had
the
to
It's
report.
funny
come back
because
again
Austin
later.
Martin is litigating
But
what Austin Martin has said.
What
I know,
said
but Rob's the one who's
was
asking
true.
questions.
And I did actually consult with a lawyer to make sure that I was
I didn't
within my
realize Rob was
rights
talking,
to do
sorry.
so before I said, no, I'm not going to comply with their
Was he
request.
I don't speak
talking?
ChatGPT.
Was ChatGPT
Because it's
talking?
true.
It's a gray
That
area,
is a
but the words are coming out of his
misrepresentation
mouth,
fact,
to
and
be
it's
fair.
self-evident from the proposition
Exercise.
itself. And so I'm characterizing the language as being one of intentional misrepresentation. It has a meaning and it's proper
This is
to
a
use it. But I did
terrible
not,
way
during
to
a
spin your
meeting, during a
questioning.
debate, raise, he's, trying to commit fraud and trick you guys, right? That would be an out of order attempt
This is
to
incredibly
wrongly
bad.
attack the motives of a speaker or a member in a parliamentary setting. And so I would submit that this rule
You're spending your
is
time.
kind of a non sequitur.
You should be spending discrediting the appeal.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Instead
I
saying,
want to return back to Mr.
but you
Jacobs.
attributed motive.
You've advised many other organizations using our parliamentary authority. I imagine those organizations have created investigatory committees.
If he were Jake,
they populated those investigatory
Rob might get along better with
committees
him.
with the members of that organization. Does our parliamentary authority require any member from an organization participating in an investigatory committee to be independent?
No, it says that they are supposed to be selected for good judgment, but that good judgment, let me get you the actual quotation on that. See, I have the book in front of me, I can just flip through it. Because this actually did come up at one thing, in one case. Let's see. Okay. It says that the committee should be known for its integrity and good judgment. I think that is the assessment of that is in the eyes of the people that are selecting that committee.
Okay.
It doesn't say anything about it being independent. That is another standard that would be existing in law.
Okay, and that was actually getting in my next question. Does our parliamentary authority define what constitutes independence?
No.
Okay, Mr.
Independence
Rushi.
is not a standard. That independence would have to be done as it was used in this case, and for the purpose of this was to have an independent investigatory committee under the auspices of DC statute. So that's where you would have to look for what constitutes independence and what does not constitute independence.
Okay. Mr. Roos, you have your hand up.
Yes, just responding with what Mr. Jacob just said regarding independence. The SIC report contains its reference to what it refers to when it means independence, and we take them at their word. That's what they mean, because that's what's the plain language, and that's why the analysis of why we believe they're misrepresented their independence, including an admission of a conflict of interest as what it is.
I can to add to that, say, since we are talking about what the DC courts have said, the initial case, the initial SIC report was rejected, if I recall correctly, on the basis that that committee was not independent,
right?
And they had determined that there were certain that, for example, one person was a patron of something that Ms. McCardle did, right, or was a contributor, and that was sufficient to say that it was not independent.
Right.
All right.
I like Rob's cats.
And then, so I guess, thank you. I'll turn it over to Mr. McGee.
I guess, thank you.
For the LNC. Same question that I asked the petitioner. Is fraud and misrepresentation as used in the statement of principles the same thing?
I don't believe so, no.
And why is that?
Well, in the one instance, there's the implication of certain actions being taken in the one sense, and in the other sense, there is also a sense similar to fraud, but slightly different, and with potentially different contexts, depending on what the supposed act being described is.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I believe that is all I have for this round. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Latham. That concludes the first round of questioning. We will now move to rebuttal, 5 minutes each. First, the appellants.
This JC appeal is brought to you by Tylenol.
Well, you want to let me say a few words, and then JJ will follow up with me. I'll be fast. There's a question here, of course, of fairness, but there's really overall these facts.
It's not.
These facts that are various facts are in dispute. The lack of alternatives to describe what happened.
That was my entire little hissy fit about 10 minutes ago.
The year of in question that was under investigation.
That's part of why I haven't had.
Put it to you this way: something that doesn't get
well,
said.
Kyle's working on a writing
one side talking about the SIC.
The fortunes of the LNC were in decline. Ms. McCardle, as chair of the LNC, took her actions to buoy those fortunes, and did so successfully. And the one of the few fundraising programs that was active throughout that year of the investigation was this relationship with this vendor freedom calls, and no other. And with fundraising actually coming coming in, there was no other real explanation given in the LNC. By the LNC as to where else was funds coming in, because there really weren't any other fundraising staff or contractors doing that type of work that you could point to them for. And frankly, if the typical amount that staff was being paid to do so was somewhere maybe $100,000 a year between all staff, all included, maybe a little bit more. And so we're talking, and the cost of freedom calls is somewhere around $50,000, maybe less. The question was, so we're having a conversation here about, want to make sure we're having the right conversation here about where is the fairness here when we're having to justify all this effort
keep refusing to believe
regarding some confusion regarding about what actually happened for fundraising in the Libertarian Party over this period of time. And I'll leave the rest to JJ. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to, and this will be short, I will yield back the time after I'm finished. There was an attempt to rescind this committee report. The comments on it were basically, and I am paraphrasing, why people voted against rescission was we don't have anything else. Not this was a good report. Not we did a really good job. It was, gee, this is all we got. That's not a ringing endorsement for this report. This is something that does need to be sent back to the LNC so that they can do a good job. I'll yield back my time.
If I may.
Yeah, your time.
You still have 2 minutes.
I'm gonna drink every time someone says "if
I
I
think
may."
it's really important here to recognize that the key thing hinges on
It's like, what if
whether or
any?
not misrepresentation is something that we can knowingly allow, and it's that knowingly part that's the biter. We're not talking about accidental mistakes. We're talking about substantive issues that it was the job of the SIC to get to the bottom of it, and we outside are able to piece together enough to show that that's total nonsense. And we need answers. And then we go and try to find them, and there's
But
no
you
evidence.
didn't.
And as far as destruction of evidence goes, there's a broad pattern, not just destruction of evidence, but concealment.
Have
in
we
general.
wait?
The
Have we established there
idea
was
that
evidence
this
destroyed?
is an open process that we can all look at this
Okay,
report
just making
and have
sure.
answers as to what happens is kind of ridiculous. The misrepresentations are self-evident, meaning they're there in the report. You don't even need anything outside the report to show that the report is not accurate in a way that's embarrassing and damaging to us. The refusal to correct it is a problem. And the fact that it has dire legal implications and dire political implications and potentially larger implications than anyone realizes, depending on what happens with it. I'm really relieved that Vest v.
Massive
LNC
implications.
is dismissed.
Massive
because it should
throbbing
be.
implications.
But the fact is that
engorged
we submitted
implications.
false, perhaps misleading legal arguments to the court to do it, and we were blocked from even talking about it. It's all directly related to this process. Those are, at first glance, not the same thing, but there is a direct relationship going on here between some of the litigating parties, some of the LNC members, the SIC members. It's not appropriate. There needs to be
With
a
minimal
proper
adjustments,
separation
Alexa,
of
I'm sure.
conflicts of interest. We need people who are not on all sides of the transaction. And talk about direct evidence. I mean, it's abundant. There's hundreds of statements of intent from before the SIC was formed by SIC members.
Implications that last
Sorry, Mr.
longer than
Seebeck,
4 hours.
Were you interrupting me?
You're at time.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. McGee?
Well, thank you, Mr. Seebeck. Well, it's clear that Mr. Martin is not a big fan of mine. However, I would like to agree with Mr. Roos's statements about concealment and
Alexa, get your mind out of
the
the
convictions of Mr. Martin.
These
that,
implications
we need to get this
are
right,
forging
and that
bonds of love.
somehow the evidence isn't out there. Again, I will reiterate my point from my opening statement. The SIC made its decision based on the evidence it had, and the non-participation of Ms. McCardle and her domestic partner directly contributed to any gaps we have in our evidence. Again, recommendation 3 of the SIC report advises the LNC to continue seeking that documentation, none of which has been produced to date.
Everyone says their
to remind
implications are
everyone
massive. Though.
of the primary events that triggered all of this. This all started very much in mid-July or mid-2023 with the hiring of Ms. McCardle's domestic partner as a fundraising.
My implications have been spinning at full mast since the start of this hearing.
Essentially. And she did not disclose the committee that Mr. Paget was in fact her domestic partner. And that caused a lot of consternation on the committee. And as a result, the contract was allowed to go through. But as a result, a policy manual amendment was passed specifically to prevent anything like this happening again. And so a few months later, the contract is renewed, but it's basically, but Ms. McCardle was told basically point blank. So at that point in time, Mr. Paget had been listed as on Ms. McCardle's list of conflicts of interest. However, once the contract was terminated, Ms.
At that point in
McCardle
time.
then removed Mr. Paget from her conflicts of interest, and then, using her authority as the executive director, entered into a contract with, or some sort of agreement with Freedom Calls without the consent of the LNC. Again, this is all public record, and certainly at this point, even the exhibits presented by Mr. Roos show that Ms. McCardle herself has confessed that Mr. Paget was in fact directly involved with the activities of Freedom Calls. To me, that's pretty cut and dry.
Please don't cut
What
and
you
dry
want
your
to call
implications.
it, have at you, Judy. I'm not calling it embezzlement. And for the record, the word embezzlement doesn't even appear in the SIC report.
But it is.
Speaking of misrepresentation, the attempts by the petitioners to grossly misrepresent my argument and the report, quite frankly, have gotten a little out of hand. But, you know, they're free to characterize things
Look,
the
with
way
an
they want to.
implication
They
that
have
large,
First
it
Amendment
can't stay in
rights,
your hands.
So be it. But I would like to set the record straight on that. And then moving to the relief requested number 3, the controls that were introduced to better our practices with regards to financial oversight and managing conflicts of interest, all of those motions that were passed in Grand Rapids and the following meeting could technically fall under the motions that would be voided if you were to grant the third relief requested, which would be significantly outside the scope of just the SIC report itself. And quite frankly, I think that would probably be a bridge too far, but certainly it's not for me to judge. I yield back my time.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. We now enter the second round of questions. Same
I mean,
order as before.
Ken, if you're
Again,
not
Mr.
secure
Montoni
as
is
your
not
implication,
here.
I
Mr.
mean,
Krawcheck.
you file an appeal about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I only have one. It keeps coming back to it. Mr. Martin, twice you've said that evidence has been destroyed, and twice Mr. McGee has said it has not.
Thank you.
Can you give me one example, or maybe two, of what was
Thank
destroyed?
you.
And Mr. McGee, could you respond telling him whether it was or wasn't?
Sure. Kixie call audit data. Where's the Kixie call audit data?
I'm
Yeah, but
sorry, I can't hear you.
prove it was destroyed.
Kixie call audit data.
Okay.
That
Yep,
data
that-
still exists.
It's
Mr. McGee?
I've offered to show him this.
I was not involved in any part of that, so I can't tell you one way or the other where it is.
The data exists.
But certainly, I would imagine staff would be able to handle any such request.
Kyle is able to show
Wait.
those data
Was it or wasn't it?
if anyone's watching
was
this
it or wasn't
on the
destroyed? You
JC.
said nothing was destroyed. Now you're saying you don't know?
I'm saying I have no, to my knowledge, nothing has been destroyed. But I'm also was not the one involved in the Kixie audit data.
You also said the SIC report didn't use the word embezzlement.
Thank you.
Did it? No, that's not evidence being destroyed. But
No.
Mr. McGee, is that true? Hello?
Big implication energy indeed.
Mr. McGee, are you with us?
I'm sorry, I must have missed your question.
Oh, well, he just mentioned that embezzlement was mentioned in the report, and you said it wasn't?
I will double check that.
There's
right
no
now. I will
charge of
control
embezzlement.
F embezzlement.
Okay.
Let's
While he's
see.
doing
No
that, go
results
back-
found. No, sorry, no results found.
Okay.
Well, if I'm mistaken on that, then you have my sincere.
Mr. Martin, why did you say that then? You know, I'm hearing stuff on both sides. It's just not true.
Before I
Looks like an angry teacher.
check Mr. McGee on the spot here, because I'm pretty sure that in the one of the motions or in the report itself, that the word is used at some point, but I could be mistaken on that. But it's an understandable mistake for someone to make because the report is designed to lead the reader to a legal conclusion that embezzlement occurred. And that is why
Can I imply what kind of
Miss
data,
McArdle
Alexa?
embezzled. So I think it's a reasonable mistake for someone to make off the cuff.
We will forgive you this time, maybe. All right. Evidence. What other evidence was destroyed?
Sure. Aside from Kixie call audit data, there are lots of records.
Check
that
the
I've
chat,
requested
JC. Check
that
the
have
chat.
not been provided, and that I've been told I just can't have, or that I can't get. And so these would include things like communications between various members that would pertain to these events.
So it wasn't destroyed. Hello? Hello?
Massive throbbing
Mr. Martin's
data,
having,
Alexa.
connection problems.
I would
Massive
too.
throbbing data.
I'm hearing stuff on both sides. It's just easily refutable by the other side. I'm not hearing people being straight up honest here. It sounds like a bunch of libertarians.
Hey, Kyle, your
arguing
other
with each
BFF,
other,
Andrew
making
Chatterton,
up
has his
stuff.
hand up.
It certainly does, but I'll tell you what's not what's going to be true. It's whatever's in the SIC report itself, because it reads for itself. And what it doesn't not provide any copies of. It provides a limited snapshot of data that's available to it. That
The
and we're
data
supposed to just
are
take it
incredibly hard to
completely at its word,
analyze, Alexa.
as is. Like, so in other words,
it's
there's a
just
bunch
very
of conclusions
stiff.
It shows
in
you,
the SIC report with
like,
not a
I
lot
can
of
pull up.
facts to
Hold
support
on.
it. So that's all I'm here to talk about.
I need to interrupt everybody.
Easy.
But
Hold
I can
it,
assure
hold it,
you they're in
everybody,
good
please.
hands.
Easy. Thank
Mr.
you.
Martin, hold it, please. Mr. Martin dropped, so we're going to pause until we can get back in.
The recording has stopped.
Oh
I'm
my
not going
God.
to continue this hearing without all the parties who are arguing present.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So far, Krawchuk is clearly getting best in show for the JC
Says he's in the way and
questioners.
enjoying.
LP
So,
Alliance is
I'm
linked in
just
this
curious.
chat.
All right, Mr. Martin, can you hear us again?
Kixie has webhooks.
I can.
Hook
I
in
apologize
to
for that
OCRA and
interruption.
Soho.
Yeah,
Kixie
this
has
is-
all this data in its
This
API
meeting is being
so
recorded.
that you can
Okay,
just
please resume.
query it.
I apologize.
You
I
have
feel
to
like there have
eventually
been
format
attempts
some, but it's easy.
to
It's a query.
basically. Oh yeah. By the way, I was told by staff that the Kixie call audit data was destroyed and that it was no longer available. So it feels like I've encountered this problem with every single inquiry that I'm making. Is either it's not available, it's not there, and anytime that I reach the bottom of it, it's a dead end.
Can you
There's
produce these logs
documentation
where you were
that,
told that?
like, there's a question about some of the documents that they produced from some of the Porter reporting that they never went and verified on their own. But
There were some questions. What's innuendo? Why are you using innuendo now? Why don't you just say what it was?
So, like,
Questions
for
have been
instance,
asked.
on the which form is that specifically? I'm forgetting the name of it. The one with the signature that doesn't match Mr. Paget. That's a really significant detail that would directly go to ownership. And our questions
It's not
try
just
to
that
get to the
it was
bottom
not
what that's
legible.
about and who that could be. We're not able to actually, like, get any answers out of anybody about that, or about how we
They don't have an
came
answer
to
for
the
you, Richard.
conclusions that we did. And we just heard Mr. McGee argue and tell us that they reached those conclusions by interpreting silence as guilt. And I think that's a real problem. I don't think, like, there are ways to investigate this and be thorough and get answers to these questions, but I'm not in control of this train. It's these guys. And so if we can't answer the questions that are, like, basic to this, that should have happened in the SIC itself, and they're hiding all of
In
this and
JC.
to shut me down. I mean, what else do? We come here because the rules have failed. The methods of accountability, the safeguards have failed, all of them. We're seeing tremendous power abuses. I'm getting regularly. I'm sorry, I don't hear you, but I see you're talking.
Yeah. No, Not looking for that kind of thing. It's just, I share your concerns. I'm not getting the answers. I'm getting contradictory answers from both sides here. And I'm in the same position. I don't know what to do with it.
Well, sir, I would encourage you. In my amicus, I filed it with an extensive list of emails and exchanges where each of us, in our own words, go over this controversy. I've characterized
I've read it
as nicely as possible, and while it's dense, I'll let Mr. Hector speak to it, since I feel like it's obvious. We have destruction of evidence. That should be enough. It's happened. It's there. It shouldn't have happened.
But we don't have destruction
I
of
don't know
evidence.
what
That's the
more
entire
I
point.
need to say.
Mr. Chair, I am done. More ways than one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krawchuk. On to Mr. Tarnoff.
Okay. I forgot to ask before of the appellant. Are there any procedural issues that we should be considering?
Mr. Charnoff, are you asking regarding whether the there was a procedural issue with the adoption of the SIC report?
Anything? Yes, adoption of the SIC report, or notice of meetings, or improper, voting. Anything. Are there any procedural issues that we should consider? I did note that there was one sort of offhandedly mentioned in the
Who is Tarnoff? Who isn't Tarnoff?
in the petition, but I didn't really see much of a basis. So I was wondering, is there any procedural issue here?
Yes,
anywhere?
I did expand on that in reply to the
Thank you,
LNC
Alexa.
response brief, just to say that the rule is the rule is, well, first of all, the motion to adopt the SIC report was being considered as an original main motion, so it literally did have to follow the policy manual requirement for previous notice. In doing so, to satisfy that previous notice, you have to mention it in the minutes, and in regards to how they did that, they put it in the they put it in the previous meeting's minutes, but this was the extension of or the continuation meeting that went to that Sunday before, and so it did end up in those minutes, only to say that as a note or report from April, so the previously continued meeting, if it sounds convoluted, it is that.
I'm sorry. Could you just clarify what do you say required previous notice? You say there was a lack of previous notice of something.
Of the motion to adopt the.
What is that, and what is your support for the requirement that it must be previously noticed?
It's treated as an original main motion, meaning that it's been brought up in the LNC is not obliged to simply take a vote to adopt the SIC report. Instead they could just receive it as is, but because there's recommendations there for actions, they decided they did adopt it through a motion, because there are actions that are recommended there that go beyond what was even asked for it to be, what the authorizing original motion or main motion was. So in other words, they by doing so, they treated it like an original main motion. I don't think there's any disagreement from the respondent on this, on whether the motion to adopt the SIC report was an original main motion. And they certainly were trying their best to follow policy manual 1.02.1, which requires original main motions to either be announced at a prior session with their purport entered into the minutes, or circulated with complete text by email at least 5 days before the meeting. So
Why
that's
doesn't
where
anyone
I'll
ever talk about like
pause there
Alabama
for a moment.
motions?
based.
Why spend so much time on main motions?
There is a.
What about Florida motions? Hector's from Florida.
My understanding, they entered the purport of this report or motion to adopt the motion to adopt the SIC report in the May 17, 2025 LNC meeting minutes. That they put it there, and that this is what it's considered announcing the intention in the previous session. However, the argument here is that the previous session requirement was not met because it is this party's tradition to consider the LNC business list as a new session between regularly scheduled monthly meetings. The LNC's business list meets basically the duck test logic for the definition of a new session. And I say that as not
the business list is on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern,
but because
hosted by LP Alliance.
Does not
it's a weekly session
provide or the authorization
with your comments and
email
ours.
ballots in the way that we the LNC behaves. So it is it's authorized by
we
bylaw,
are the business list
to have an
and
email
so are you,
ballots. So the LNC by operation of its bylaws creates this new session. This is nothing that hasn't been discussed before regarding this issue of sessions using the email list has come up before. So if they were going to satisfy the previous notice requirement in the policy manual, they would have had to put it. They would be basically announcing what's the next session.
Kyle,
well, it's
can
the
you
email list ballot. So you're going to move to an email ballot. Instead, they wait a week and they say we're going to have a special meeting the next Sunday.
I'm not quite following. What are you claiming? Are you saying that original main motions all require previous notice?
That is policy manual 1.02.1.
It has since been changed.
It has since been changed, but that was the requirement.
The requirement was that there had to be prior notice.
Yes.
The cat is meowing with all the talk of the implications.
Okay, I noted in Roberts. Not sure if I can find it quickly. But there seems to be a difference between prior notice and the notice with regard to special meetings. Let me just find the special meetings. Notice requirement of special meetings. 916, the requirement that business transacted at a special meeting be specified in the call should not be confused with the requirement that previous notice of a meeting be given. Is that what's happening here? Are you saying that because this was the call of a special meeting that that there should be prior notice, or are you basing it on something in the procedure manual that existed at the time but no longer exists, which I don't have access to?
The latter, and it's in that language is both in the appeal brief and the respondent's response. Right. So it's the latter. This is the call to a meeting is separate to the actual motion being noticed for original main motion being having the pre-note prior notice. Hope that answers the question.
Okay, so I'm going to put it just for my notes here. What number did you say that was under the procedure manual?
It's a section 1.02.1. It's been JJ was amended 2 months ago? 1 month ago?
August.
Okay.
Amended in August. Okay.
This was.
If somebody could send me a copy of that original language in the, because all I have is the current procedural manage. I think. Oh, wait a minute. No, mine actually says that it was last edited. It says effective date, March 12th, 2025. So it should be in here.
Should be.
1.02.1. Let me look here.
This is the same previous notice requirement, which was resulted in the chair voiding the two related or appertent resolutions. Mr. McGee,
I looked at this before, and I don't see how this applies.
Word of the day calendar.
An LNC member may satisfy the requirement of giving previous notice, by, XXX, and then it says previous notice is not required unless specified by the party bylaws or its parliamentary authority. So where, can you point to where in the party bylaws or Robert's previous notice is required for this type of motion?
So your question is not about the policy manual, but what's the requirement in the bylaws themselves?
Well, the policy manual, have I got the right thing here? It says 1.02 meetings, sub 1, previous notice. And it starts, an LNC member may satisfy the requirement of previous notice of their intention to introduce an original main motion at the next session by, okay? But that just says if there is a requirement, then this is how they satisfy it. The final sentence of this section says previous notice is not required unless specified by the party bylaws or its parliamentary authority. So I'd like to know if this is the only procedural issue, where in the party, what is the basis in the party bylaws or or Roberts for requiring previous notice for this main motion?
There is a Ronner requirement. One moment. And if you want to skip ahead, it's in, I put this in the original appeal brief on page 21 and 22. One moment. Let me get you that Roberts citation. Let's see, it looks like 1047.
I have the original one is section 1.02.
Right. No, we're asking about the when an incidental main motion is converted to an original main motion in Ronner. We're looking for the Ronner reference. I think it's 1047.
You won't find one. You will find a definition of what constitutes an original and an incidental main motion, and you will find that on page. I think it's. Excuse me. It'll be on. I think it's 10. Yeah.
Jake, that sounds like the worst kind of porn ever.
In 10:4.
Oh, in 10:4. So hot.
My Ronner open.
Disgust. Look, I don't.
Incidental main motion.
Yeah. Just, I must disclose this. We're in disagreement on this point. So that's.
Where does it require? Where does this?
There's some very graphic implications.
Does it mention prior notice?
Well, that was required for original main motions in the rule, but it did not apply to incidental main motion. This was an original main motion.
Right.
Okay, so you're saying 10.4 is irrelevant to the question?
10.4 determines what is an original and an incidental main motion, so it's not irrelevant because the things only apply to original main motions.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the policy manual. Policy manual says previous notice. You're complaining that there was no previous notice, right?
Or insufficient.
Or it was insufficient. It says previous notice is not required, if I'm reading the right policy manual, unless specified by the party bylaws or its parliamentary authority. So I'd like to know where in the party bylaws or the parliamentary authority it states that previous notice is required for this motion.
It's an important question.
I'm not certain that that's the correct one. Let me see if I can take a look at this.
Okay, well, all right. Well, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but if you can find that and send it to me.
Let me see if I can take a look at it. Let's see.
I note that Jacobs is also silent.
That's 810. I need to see if I can find an earlier one, and I can't. Let's see. Okay, I have a copy of it here. Now, at the time, section 1.02.
It did. It was all but 2 people.
Okay. I need to see. It helps to see the text when you're looking.
Looking for those implications. Naughty, naughty.
The party bylaws may require notice for special meetings.
No one is keeping
They
track
may
of time.
require the gist
Alexa,
of
time
what is in there, but I wanted to see something else.
is a bourgeoisie
Let's see.
construct.
Yeah.
Those are also simultaneously very important
An
in history.
LNC member may satisfy
Step
the
in my
requirements for giving previous notice of their intention to introduce an original main motion by announcing this at the previous session when a quorum is present.
We're
or
on
sending
Jim
the
Wiley
complete language
time.
of the motion out there. You are
Whatever you
required
want it
give
to be.
Previous notice of a motion for a special meeting. This was a special meeting.
Okay, you're
That's
ignoring
covered.
you're ignoring the last sentence.
That
You're
is
ignoring the last sentence here. It says, previous notice is not required. Do you see that? It says previous notice is not required unless specified by the party bylaws or its parliamentary authority.
It is specified in the parliamentary authority.
Right.
And it says what this notice is required. 1 and 2
Fair.
refer to what constitutes the notice. The final thing it is required in the parliamentary authority is
Where?
I put the parliamentary notes 1047 and 1052.
I also think it's 9:6. I think it is 9:15 and 9:16.
What was the last one?
9:15 and 9:16.
Hit the like button, even
60?
if you hate what you're watching.
9.
Show us some love.
9:15.
Get an LNC that
9:16.
doesn't lead to this madness.
Let me look that up.
1047. If previous notice is given at a meeting, it can be given orally, unless the rules require.
I can handle a lot of implications orally.
This is not a requirement. This does not specify a requirement that a particular type of motion must have previous notice. And you said 10.
You have to give previous. You do have to give previous notice for motions that are happening at or that are going to take place at a special meeting.
And it's original main motion. That's
An
1052.
original main motion.
You mentioned 1047 and 1052, and
Okay, well,
right?
I
And
would go with 9:15.
I just read
Question should follow the
1047,
rationale
which
for
does not
appeal, and this
confer
is
any
bouncing all over the
requirement to give previous notice. It just says that on how you give previous notice.
Right.
And 1052, I don't see how it mentions notice at all. Are you sure
I'm
you
gonna
have
put
the
it
right?
underneath Five
number
Guys
here?
cups, Ken.
Yeah, 9:15 does.
Let me go there.
Okay, and we
The
had
only
mentioned
business
915 before.
transacted at a special meeting that is that which has been specified in the call of the meeting. This describes what has to be in there in order to qualify for that notice. It basically supersedes that requirement in 915 and makes it a little bit more.
No, Jake, getting
Made
caught
it,
for
I
theft
should
is
say, a little
boring.
bit more stringent.
The theft is exciting.
Okay, you're saying that because this was a special meeting, the only business that can be transacted is that which has been specified in the call of the meeting.
Yes, and it has to be it has to be the things required for previous notice in section 1.02. If this
Okay. If 9.16, 9 sub 16 says that the requirement that business transacted at a special meeting can be specified in the call should not be confused with a requirement that previous notice of a motion be given. So I don't see any requirement in Roberts or the bylaws that would require previous notice. So
look at the first line of section 1.
is there, I don't see any.
Well, Jake, your original article had actual facts and
procedural
things, and
objection here. So is there any other procedural
these are falsehoods
objection?
to discredit the facts.
Yeah, actually, there would be. Because
What is that?
There would be, and that was that when the motion, and since you've asked for any kind of procedural problem, when the motions were made at the special meeting, there was no debate.
Andrew Chatterton's hand has been up for like 20 minutes.
Debate should only be limited by a 2/3 vote. But no debate was permitted.
How did they prevent it?
The chair said, I'm not going to permit you to debate.
Okay. I don't know if, I mean, there are, if the chair acts improperly, there are disciplinary rules regarding how to handle that. Were those employed?
May I? Yes. Systematically, all of the safeguards failed, and the committee failed to uphold the rules of order entirely in this situation. Mr. Chatterton and myself made vehement objections, calling for debate, trying to appeal the ruling of the chair. We were being ruled as dilatory and out of order. Is that the meeting that we were thrown out of? I can't recall if that was the one that we got thrown out of, or if we were just being muted regularly.
If the implications
the abuse of
are large enough,
the power of the chair, and
it will naturally be
the
dilatory.
factionless majority is something that it's hard to stand up to, and it sucks. Just being frank with you guys.
Is that characterization reflected in the minutes or in a recording or something else?
It is certainly reflected in the recording. As far as the minutes, I do not believe the minutes accurately characterize the objections. But I believe that there are records that reflect that objections were made and were basically steamrolled. So
they
no
were
debate
raised,
was
but they
allowed
should not have
because
been.
even after
That was
the SIC
definitely
was
a
made
violation
public and it was no
of
longer
the policy
protected
manual and
could
not
be
cool.
discussed. They had ruled that we'd already debated it in executive
They were thrown
session.
out for
and when
annoying
I raised this objection, they said, well, we can go back into executive session, which at that point would have been inappropriate. And our resistance to not going into executive session was then interpreted as not wanting debate. Actually, if nobody objects,
for throwing
I would
someone
love
out
it
for
if
being
Mr.
disruptive.
Chatterton
That was
wanted
not
to say
followed.
something about this. He probably remembers this meeting pretty well.
Yes, I would ask the respondent if the characterizations of what happened in the meeting are correct.
Unfortunately, I was not present for that meeting.
Oh boy.
So nobody can, on the respondent side, can say one way or the other whether that characterization.
Would you permit Chair Nikela to characterize his side of the events?
If he was present.
I'm trying to remember which specific meeting are we talking about? Is this the second time we voted on the SIC adoption?
The 9th.
June 9th, the first
meeting.
Yes, where you guys went into lengthy executive session.
Okay, so
I think the question was coming out of executive session, was debate limited, to your recollection?
I don't believe debate was ever limited. I think that whatever we do as a body. So the rights of members are always being respected. If the body deliberated in executive session and then moved on to a vote, that's of course appropriate per honor. That's how the meeting is run. Nobody is, everybody gets their turn to debate and to make motions and to say what they want to say. But ultimately, it's up to the body to choose how they wish to move forward. So people may have opinions on more time, less time, et cetera, but it's ultimately up to the body at the end of the day to decide how we move forward. My job is to just facilitate the body's wishes.
Okay. I didn't realize that Mr. Martin was speaking of the first meeting. I'm not sure that procedural problems with the first meeting have anything to bear on this hearing. Were there any procedural issues with regard to the second? I don't know if it was a hearing, but the second SIC report adoption, because the first is not relevant, right?
I don't recall any procedural issues, and again, I'll say that the rights of every member are, of course, respected. There may be differences of opinion as to, and I don't recall specifics, but whether something should have more time or whether or not something should be voted on.
Martin.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Yes, my comments refer actually to both. Debate was limited on both occasions inappropriately, and in the first, I would say, is important because we did not actually rescind the SIC on that day. That is the adoption that still is in place. Mr. Bowler and Mr. Nikela worked together to attempt to cure some of the opportunity motions, but I don't recall them doing the same thing with the report
Sam didn't
itself.
do anything wrong there. Sam tried
so
hard
would just
to give
point
them an
out that,
opportunity
that what happened on the first meeting is extremely relevant to this, but that pattern was not limited to the first meeting. Debate has been regularly stifled, and not always by a consenting vote of the body, but oftentimes by inappropriate tactics. And this is a pattern that I go into great detail in my amicus. I know it's a little dense, but each reference on there shows a documented occurrence of exactly that pattern. I believe Mr. Nikela is incorrect when he represents to this committee that there was no stifling of debate. It was not allowed at all.
Okay. Well, I'm actually not sure if the stifling of debate is sufficient procedural defect to overturn a motion generally. But I would appreciate it if you could send me some, if you have direct evidence, a recording or a with like numbers, where on the recording to find this, or written minutes that would demonstrate that this happened, then I will look into whether that is a valid basis for overturning a motion, and if so, that would be very interesting. If I can move on, I don't know. Does Mr. Chatterton have something important to say, or?
He's had his hand for like half an hour.
I think if Mr. Roos does not object,
I don't object. Mr. Chatterton, go ahead and speak. You've been.
Yes. I think there are some relevant procedural matters that I think have been pretty directly and openly violated. Some examples that come to mind is that in the August 10th LNC meeting, there was a motion put before the body that would have restricted access to counsel to only the chair and the executive director. That policy manual amendment did not pass. However, in multiple examples since that time, I believe which are documented in the referenced attachments to Mr. Martin's amicus brief, And I think particularly some of the emails regarding ethics complaint from late August, if I'm not mistaken, but I can confirm that and give better details. There's several documented examples of Mr. Nikela stepping in after there was ongoing discussions with our attorney regarding specific matters that are relevant to these items of business. And then basically when Mr. Martin and I got onto questions that were starting to expose misconduct, either through action or inaction or stifling of action, specifically stated that we would no longer have access to counsel outside of executive sessions and meetings, which that's been the standard practice.
What was the date of those events?
So the motion to consider the policy to restrict access was the August 10th electronic meeting of the LNC. That motion was a policy manual amendment, and it was stricken from the agenda.
I think we need to limit this to events that took place on August 24th when this resolution was passed, or on February 2nd when the second SIC committee was formed, because it seems to me that those are the only two dates that are relevant. February 2nd, the second SIC was constituted. Were there procedural issues with the constitution of that? Or August 24th, when the SIC report was adopted and the resolutions were passed.
I think maybe to tie into that is that these deprivations of access to counsel occurred to the extent that they directly blocked the LNC's ability to make informed decisions on those matters. So as a specific example, I believe meeting the criteria that you requested on August 24th with that meeting, I had sent a question to council inquiring about the impacts of the resolutions that were related. I described this in better detail, I believe, in my brief, and provided the email exchange in that, in which specific legal questions are answered that I think would be very reasonably characterized that absent an answer, whether it's the one I expected or the one I didn't, that absent that answer, it was irresponsible for the LNC to act without having that advice. And
Alexa, if you use your imagination, stifle can be whatever you want it to be.
That forced action that night, and we could not get that legal advice in time for that vote in that meeting. So I think,
I'm not sure what the violation is there,
the interest that was violated there was that there were specifically legal questions raised that were okay.
Mr. Chatter, I would like to respond if possible at some point.
Okay, JJ wanted to say something. And
yes, it just deals with the dates. The motion, the SIC was originally adopted on
Thank you, Jake.
June 9th, 2025. I'm looking at the minutes. In August, there was an attempt to rescind that motion that failed. So I believe one of the key dates would be what happened on June 9th when the report was initially adopted.
Right. Let me add to what Mr. Chatterton was saying regarding legal advice. There was conflicting legal advice being provided in the SIC report, only in respect to what authority does the LNC have to prohibit, ban a member, because that language explicitly was put into a resolution that they were voted on, as well as the recommendation to prevent an officer from continuing to serve in the SIC report. So those are legal, and of course the other legal conclusions that are made in the SIC report themselves. So I believe what Mr. Chatterton his frustration is that they didn't have access to legal counsel to inquire as to what's the basis of these legal positions effectively. And later we all learned that the LNC entered a motion to dismiss in the Beth Vest case that was the court found persuasive, that neither the court nor the LNC has the authority to ban a permanent ban a member from consideration in leadership or as a candidate.
All right, I'd like to move on to something else here. Does the appellant claim that the accused has a Fifth Amendment right not to have a negative inference drawn for failure to testify or submit evidence? Right. I mean, there was a claim that the fact that
they literally said in the report that that was not supposed to be evidence of wrongdoing.
Austin Paget.
And Mr. Paget failed to testify that it was not reasonable to draw a negative inference from that. Is that appellant's claim?
Reasonable.
That's also the
Fifth Amendment right are two different standards, sir. I would not say they have a Fifth Amendment right to invoke silence and have no reasonable inference drawn from that silence. So there is a situation where silence may indicate a reasonable inference could be drawn. However, here there's real question about this. This is a show trial. This is a political stunt, and anything that she says could be used against her in a much more unethical way than you might get away with in court. Maybe we see the same thing happen all the time, but it's the principle of when you're in a situation where you have opposition that's gone to the trouble of, creating kind of an appearance and going out of their way to do it. I mean, and I've been through this. I'm speaking from experience. I had someone try to set me up at one point for embezzlement. And, I caught on to what they were doing. And if I had not, through no wrongdoing of my own, it could have resulted in a very similar, though much smaller scale situation of what we saw with Angela. And it was just attempted political attack on, and I've seen it done on others. We can't kid ourselves. This is American politics. We're the most powerful country in the world, and we're the third largest party in America, and we have an impact. And there are a lot of interests that are interested in us, and we got involved in some big stuff last year.
So you would say that it's not improper to draw a negative inference from their failure to provide evidence, but
it depends on the situation.
In this case, they should not draw such a negative inference.
It is not a Fifth Amendment right, but correct. I would point out that nothing can be drawn related to Mr. Paget, as he was not a member of the LNC at any point. He is just some individual. That they would not have the technical ability to judge him at any point.
Right.
Okay, well, that is a good point. A couple more things. In the chat, I saw Kyle Davis in the chat said he offered Mr. Martin the Kixie data. I don't know if he meant the Kixie data, some kind of data, and he did not respond. Is that a fact?
I don't know.
I don't recall.
Mr. Davis also said later in the chat that he's also bound by his NDA to not provide that data. So I'm not sure what he's speaking. He's double speaking there.
Okay. I think it was Mr. Martin mentioned that this is my last thing, that there were internal conflicts in the SIC report. So I would just say if those internal conflicts aren't pointed out specifically in your amicus, then please send them to me, because you're just a mere statement that's the fact is really not sufficient.
The statement includes a reference, and the reference is to Mr. Chatterton's report to the region, which he provided as an explanation for his intended vote on that in the short time frame that we had. So I would refer you to that, and there's other matters that have been brought. So that statement, I felt like it's not my job to reinvent the wheel. I'm merely referencing the work of others, and the evidence that I'm bringing in my amicus is mostly focused on what happened to me for asking reasonable questions about the SIC and doing my own due diligence and the level of resistance, interference, and
Again, if there are internal conflicts in the SIC report, I'm going to need them pointed out. I will review your amicus, to see if they're in there. But if they're in there, please send them, because otherwise I can't use them. I don't know if Mr. Davis would like to say something about the previous, if he has something relevant to say about the previous KIXI data.
Sure.
Mr. Davis?
Absolutely. So I'm a member of the IS committee, and I have pointed out to Mr. Martin several times at this point that as a member of that committee, I can get access to like KIXI and to show the information from Zoho, showing the amounts that were going out to Ms. McCardle, et cetera. I've said this consistently, privately, since June.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Please send it all to the entire LNC and then let them make a decision about how to release it publicly. Thank you.
if I may, I don't recall.
I would add that I've heard.
JJ?
I would add that I have heard that there is a minority report that has been submitted, but I have not seen it.
Okay, I'm done, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tarnoff. I have a couple of questions. First one is a very simple question, and this is to both sides. And I would ask Mr. McKee to address it first, and then the appellant secondary. The investigative committee had 5 months to which they were doing their work. In that time, the subject of the investigation committee, Ms. McCardle, was silent and did not, according to all reports, engage with the committee to set the record straight or to provide her side of the story. Why?
Well, Mr. Seebeck, that's not entirely true. Mr. Roos actually presented an exhibit where I don't know if it was explicitly written by Ms. McCardle or ghost written by her, but it does put forward her side of the story, but it doesn't really provide any supporting documentation.
Did she interact with the committee at all?
To my knowledge, no.
Same question to the appellants.
You want to go first, did you?
No. You go first.
To the extent that the SIC, that the investigation began before the SIC investigation properly started itself, you can see in the SIC report, the questions were asked of her, that is to say, Ms. McCardle, and they were introduced as evidence into the SIC report. Consequently, the narrative that Ms. McCardle provided to me, that was apparently also provided to an attorney that also reviewed that, explained that that she was told that the investigation was not about her, that the investigation would not come down to any conclusions with her, about her, because that was part of her agreement for resigning in the first place. So I believe that just should answer that question pretty succinctly. JJ?
No, I was just going to add that as there have been some questions about her involvement in trying to do something in Colorado that had been raised, I did offer, with the approval of my client, who was the chair of the LPCO, I did offer to testify regarding any information there. I do have some documentation that basically says she was not involved in it. But they did not take me up on that, so I did not know exactly what they were investigating either.
Well, then here's a follow-up. If the purpose of the SIC was not specifically directed at Ms. McCardle, would not that be a motivation to fully cooperate with them, to provide information so that they can so they could produce their investigation in an unbiased and impartial manner? And wouldn't refusal to do so, whether it was initially or as follow-up, create an implication of something to hide and guilt? Because that is the perception that has been put forth throughout this entire duration of what's been going on, for better or for worse, is what it is. So I'm having trouble questioning the motivation for not working this. Yeah, this is not a criminal court of law. There's not a presumption of innocence, guilt, and guilty. It's not Fifth Amendment issue. None of that is in play here. This is a private, I hate to say it, private investigation. We're not talking Magnum PI here, but we're talking about an internal investigation as to what was going on with all this stuff. And if we're supposed to be dedicated to honesty and transparency and integrity, then there should be some sort of attempt of cooperation and attempt to clear names. That's where I'm in trouble with it. Now, next question. Mr. McGee, in your rebuttal statement, you made a statement that you felt like some of your statements were being misrepresented. I would like you to set the record straight.
Oh goodness. That would take another hour. I would just prefer not to attempt to do that. I think everyone can come to their own conclusions.
All right, fair enough. Broader question for both sides. Who signs the pledge?
Say again?
Who signs the pledge?
The individual.
Correct. Is the pledge a requirement to be a member?
Yes.
Nationally, yes.
Mm-hmm.
National is what we're talking about here. Is it a requirement to be a member to be on the LNC?
Yes.
So is it therefore logical to say that the pledge applies to the members of the LNC?
Absolutely.
You're garbled, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. Could you repeat?
Does the pledge then apply to the members of the LNC?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Does it apply to the LNC as the individual members or as a group?
If I may, I think it could be both.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go along with that.
Yep.
What do the bylaws say about application as a group?
I don't believe that that would be a proper construction, sir.
Oh, the membership pledge you're referring to?
Yes, I'm referring to the pledge.
Well, the pledge in its basis is based on the principles of the party. So there is a group connotation there as well.
How does that application contrast with the bylaws statement about application of affiliates?
Yep. You mean whether the membership pledge has to be adopted by affiliates, which is what it has to be in order to be properly affiliated?
That's what's in the bylaws.
Okay.
Cannot an affiliate be removed for violating that, or disaffiliated? Excuse me.
Yes.
They have.
The point.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, could you please?
Can an affiliate be disaffiliated for violating the pledge?
Very possibly, yes.
Oregon was an example.
The point of all of this is very simple. The bylaws specifically give explicit detail about when application of the pledge applies and what violations of the pledge have for consequences in specific cases and not in others. So the argument of the LNC not being bound by the pledge as a group is valid in accordance with the bylaws, but each member of the LNC is adhered to the bound of the pledge because of their nature of their membership in the party. The same is true for this judicial committee, by the way, and any other committee that we have going on at the national level. where membership is a requirement to be in that committee. As the bylaws are written. So I'm just going to point that out to point out that how things are worded in the bylaws, in the policy manual, in Roberts, and there's been a lot of back and forth on that tonight, as well as what's in the weeds of the SIC report and all the different interpretations or allegations or arguments regarding it, that the words do matter. And they have to be very specific and very clear. And that is something that I think everybody needs to take from this hearing, to be very careful in how they're saying things in the future to what they're doing. That's all I have to say. I will go on to Mr. Stratton.
This reminds me of a Senate hearing. Like nothing of substance is being said. We are not talking about the
30 minutes ago.
the substance
I
of
did
the
not
appeal.
see that. Thank you. We will go on to Mr. Latham.
All right, round two. So following up on this
I can respect someone and call it
of
grandstanding
these,
when I see it.
June 9th versus August 24th meetings.
I grandstand. That's why we're live streaming
I'll throw
this
this
and not
first to
actually
Mr. Roos.
on the JC.
So were there, I see in the
grandstand?
LNC's brief in
No, I
response,
just said that we grandstand. So that
this
we can't be
language,
on the
quote,
thing.
Mr. Jonathan Jacobs, parliamentarian and a co-petitioner,
collective,
publicly
Amanda.
conceded
Remember,
at
it's
the
communist.
August 24th, 2025
Marxist.
LNC meeting that the motion to adopt the report was in order, if imprudent. So do you agree with that characterization of what Mr. Jacobs, what his opinion is on whether there were any infirmities at the August 24th meeting?
The August 24th meeting?
Correct.
I never had any problems with the August 24th meeting. No.
Okay. So I mean, just what I'm trying to.
I think we have a disagreement over the
meeting remedy whatever infirmities people were concerned about at the June 9th meeting.
Right. There were some issues regarding procedure in June 9th. Much of it has been resolved through the action of the LNC to void it, but for lack of notice. Mr. McGee, I see his hand up.
Okay, but notice was resolved essentially at the August 24th meeting. Is that what I'm understanding?
Sir,
no.
I apologize.
I do want to hear from Mr. Jacobs, because I guess in fairness,
okay,
one trying to characterize.
Okay, well, I'm going to start off by saying I told Mr. Roos this would be what I would say.
Sure.
So, yeah, in my opinion, the two motions that were adopted at the June 9th meeting, the two resolutions, I can get you their text and read it because I have the minutes up, were void because of improper notice. There was a point of order at the August meeting that ruled that where the chair basically ruled those two motions out of order for improper notice. I am of the opinion, and I have not changed it, that there was proper notice given for the adoption of the committee report itself. So I did not feel that there is that there was a problem with notice for the adoption of the committee report itself.
And that's where we disagree.
Yes.
Okay, so and I heard disagreement. So Mr. Roos, you say there's not a problem, or sorry, you say there is a problem on August 24th. Mr. Jacobs says there's not a problem.
We're talking about the June 9th adoption of the SIC report.
Okay, but now I'm talking about August 24th, and again, the LNC saying in its brief that Mr. Jacobs, who is a parliamentarian and a co-petitioner, conceded at the August 24th, 2025 LNC meeting that the motion to adopt the report was in order, if imprudent.
I think there's a misstatement in that response. I do not recall a report being adopted in that meeting.
It was not, as far as I know.
Right. I think it's just a misstatement by the respondent.
May I clarify that before you mischaracterize my statements?
Please. Okay. Well, I was gonna give you a chance, Mr. McGee, but I just want to kind of get the petitioner's take on this thing first. So again, I guess is that what were whatever infirmities were involved in June 9th, were they remedied? Let's set the misrepresentation issue aside, because I get that that's a separate issue. I guess talking in terms of notice, in terms of talking about procedure, does all that get fixed at August 24th, or is there still a problem?
No. There's a misreading, I think, or a misunderstanding of what's being stated in my brief. It was at the August 24th meeting that Mr. Jacobs offered the opinion that the adoption of the SIC report at the June 9th meeting was in fact in order.
Got it.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
that is correct.
Is that more accurate, Mr. Jacobs?
That is correct. I opined that there was not a procedural infirmity with the notice for the report itself. Though there were for other motions, those have been remedied.
Okay, so you mean so Mr. Jacobs, just so I'm clear, you're saying there was not even an infirmity, at least procedurally, on June 9th. Is that what I'm hearing?
With the adoption of the report itself, I do not believe there was an infirmity. With the adoption of some other thing, as it relates to notice, with the adoption of some other things, I believe there was a problem with notice, and those things were found later to be void.
Wait, okay, but then were the things that were void, did they redo it on August 24th with sufficient notice and that solved the problem? Or is there still a problem?
I don't believe anybody is questioning the notice on the August meeting. All
right. Does anybody else want to elaborate on that issue? I see Mr. Martin has his hand up.
As somebody who had to try to make an informed decision at that meeting, I can tell you now, there was not enough.
Will you just clarify which meeting, that meeting? Are we talking about June 9th or August 24th?
On the June 9th meeting of the adoption of the SIC report,
which
we
received the text of the report, and because I'm in
No,
Hawaii,
I'm somewhat familiar with how that June 9th meeting went down. So let me ask you this then. Let's just assume that the June 9th report was problematic or the procedure in adopting it and whatnot. Are you conceding that all that gets fixed aside from the misrepresentation on August 24th? They say, oops, our bad, we're fixing this on August 24th.
No, sir. I think that the problems extend far beyond just a simple notice problem. We're looking at a disciplinary procedure masquerading as an opinion. And it also invites a lot more consequences and problems that are beyond, in my opinion, some of the matters that they're talking about here are really beyond their authority to attack in a disciplinary capacity. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Okay. You're operating as an amicus, and in fact, maybe, I don't know, Mr. Roos, since you're the lead, are you a co-petitioner or are you an amicus, Mr. Martin?
Co-petitioner.
Okay. So, Mr. Roos, I guess I want to tease out, do you take the same position as Mr. Martin that there were procedural infirmities even after August 24th?
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like Mr. Martin, Mr. Roos say there were procedural infirmities even after August 24th, but Mr. Jacobs does not agree with that.
If I may clarify, I was speaking about procedural infirmities relating to notice only.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm asking about.
Infirmities.
Right.
So let's dig into after the LNC acts on August 24th, what procedural infirmities? Again, let's leave misrepresentation aside. I think that's a separate issue. That's more of a substantive rather than procedural issue. What procedurally is still problematic after August 24th?
Well, that would be the procedural problem. There is a rule in Robert about adopting a motion that violates the bylaws, and that's covered. That's 23.6. Let me get to the citation. I think it's B, but I want to give it to you directly. let's see. Yeah, it's actually A. I'm sorry. It's 23:6A. Is that a motion that conflicts? A main motion that has been adopted that conflicts with the bylaws or constitution of the organization or assembly.
So the misrepresentation is kind of baked into that. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
So then
procedural issue.
That's okay. You're making it procedural, even though I've been saying substantive. You're saying because the motion has this misrepresentation contained in it, that's what makes it violative of this 23:6, conflicts with the bylaws of the organization or assembly. Okay. So, but then it sounds like, would you agree if we decide that, well, say some of us decide that misrepresentation only applies to government action and does not apply to LNC action, don't you lose?
Probably.
Okay. All right.
We would argue, though, that the bylaw does apply to all people in the Libertarian Party.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
If I may, I didn't elaborate on.
Mr. Roos and Mr. Martin, they had hands up. I'll let them elaborate.
I wanted to clarify the difference between myself and Mr. Jacobs here on the issue of previous notice of the motion.
I would like
to
differentiate the difference between myself.
If we were only relying on Robert's rules, then Mr. Jacobs is correct. I would say that he's on point regarding previous notice. However, there are some quirks regarding our own bylaws that I believe set aside create additional requirements or complicate how to satisfy previous notice beyond what Mr. Jacobs is referring to. Mainly that in order to that the rules specifically in the policy manual, which is again, let me guide you. Roberts requires, if it's an original main motion, that to say if your rules require previous notice, that you must follow it. So you go back to our policy manual, and then there was a requirement for previous notice, which was either to which was the 1.012, sorry, 1.02.1, pardon me, and effectively the way that the LNC had noticed the report itself was they simply added in the report 8 days before into the meeting minutes of that night, that Sunday, that they were going to have this report read at some point, heard and adopted by the LNC. Would be not, there was no motion. There was just say we'll be bringing it up at some point, and it's dated in April. So this is June, right? So the policy manual simply requires it to be a purport of what the motion will be,
and then you had months to actually read it, and the motions were readopted.
Our ethical code, frankly. But in regards to previous notice, it says that it has to be purported in the meeting immediately before that session where it's going to be held, which was going to be a special session 8 days later. Now, in the intermediary, we have this email ballot, we have this business list that is provided by our bylaws, which overrides Ronner, and this is where it gets a little complicated, and this is where we're at in the appeal. We asked the JC to consider that if the business list is a new session between that meeting where it's reported and the special meeting where it's adopted, then which is actually the next session? Is it the business list, or is it that next special meeting? If it's the business list, then they should have held the motion to adopt the SIC report on the business list itself. If it's otherwise, so you can see that if you don't interpret it that way, but then what occurred will naturally happen again, which is then you can wait the whole 7 days, wait 24 hours to give the entire complete text of the motion, And then poor Mr. Austin Martin here will have be given 14 hours while in the middle of the night to read it
takes 4 to read it out loud with funny voices. I don't know what to tell you.
Give thorough understanding of it. That kind of surprise is what will happen again and again and again. And I believe that the JC has an opportunity here to rule.
The surprise is that you can't read 100 pages in 14 hours, especially when some of them are just graphics.
I believe
That's the surprise.
Mr. Roos,
I shouldn't be, but I am.
Interject there. So what you're saying that was Mr. Martin, did he participate in the June 9th meeting? I think he did.
Yes.
Okay. Did he participate in the August 24th meeting?
Sure.
So Mr. Roos, are you saying that Mr. Martin still had inadequate notice at the August 24th meeting?
Thank you.
On the June 9th meeting.
Okay, but what about the August 24th meeting? Was he operating under, he didn't know what was going on?
That was only in respect to they only heard these motions, right, for the new resolutions that were adopted based on the SIC report, not the SIC report itself.
Okay, I'll put it to you, Mr. Martin. Were you uninformed as of August 24th as to what the LNC was going to do with the SIC report?
Respectfully, sir, the SIC report was already passed on that day, and it was not up for consideration on August 24th.
Okay, but there were motions that I guess flowed from that report, or recommendations, right?
The reason that those motions came up at all is because we made a JC appeal challenging those motions for lack of notice.
Okay, but answer my question. August 24th, are you still confused and you don't have adequate notice as to what's coming your way? August 24th in terms of censure and doing those motions? Or
I believe that mischaracterizes the situation. That's not actually what's being said by the parties. We're saying that on June 9th, which was
okay, well, that's what I'm asking you.
That's one of the remedies.
It's kind of an absurd question because, frankly, that's not what's being claimed. No offense, I don't mean that in any disrespectful way. I just mean
okay. Well, help us understand.
So the notice issue that we're talking about has to be distinguished from the opportunate motions, which were cured later. The report, the notice defect on the report was never cured. It was never declared void. So the SIC report is still intact from its original June 6th or June 9th adoption date. That's the date in which I did not have time to respond. I read the report within the
Let's say for sake of argument, that's true. Where are you at on August 24th?
On August 24th, after this has already been passed and we've been fighting and we've had a JC appeal and we've been going around and just getting absolutely kicked around publicly by the rest of the LNC for asking basic fiduciary questions. At that point, I know very well what's going on, and it's very clear to me that the fix was in. So it wasn't a matter of notice as far as like not knowing what's going on by August 24th. By then it was, hey, we have these substantive issues that are being totally ignored. And they're like, oh, hey, we noticed that you guys might have a point in your JC appeal. Let's just preemptively void these and we'll cure the notice issues and we'll steamroll it through anyway. On August 24th, meaningful discussion was still not engaged in on the merits because we couldn't address the underlying issue, which was the report on which these motions were based. And because they were not being considered at the same time, there was no way to effectively argue the actual facts. We had to deal with what's been done.
It's hurtful.
So there's two different dates of concern here. The June 9th is when the report was passed. August 24th is the new cure date for the motions that were derivative from that report. And those are two separate issues with their own procedural characters, right?
Okay.
So
let me thank you, Mr. Martin. Let me just jump to Mr. Jacobs. So, because if this report is rushed and adopted, again, this statement about you saying that the adoption of the report was in order, if imprudent, is the LNC required to give members like Mr. Martin sufficient time to, for lack of a better word, I guess, analyze, understand that report?
Required? No. Should they do it? In all probability, and that they should. But
it's a nice to have. It's not a must-have.
It is not an absolute requirement.
Okay. All right. Mr. Martin, you have your hand up.
I respectfully just disagree with the concept that notice is optional. And I don't mean to overrule my colleagues on this. Respectfully, the point of notice is to be able to make informed decisions. Notice is, notice opportunity to respond is the soul of due process. And this too comes down to the heart of who we are as the Libertarian Party. When we give notice, it's not just a mere formality. This is something on which our decision-making hinges. I was able to independently
Webster's
verify,
dictionary
even in a
defines
relatively
notice.
short time, that there are many elements of the report which were questionable. If they delayed a month, we could have made changes without risking this huge, crazy fight that we've had, just if they've just been willing to entertain reasonable questions. But they didn't. And my job as a director is
I wonder if you're confusing, you say there was insufficient notice because you didn't get to participate. I noticed that and I shouldn't have said notice. Isn't there a difference between notice and an opportunity to be heard?
Certainly. And I only mention that because those are, I think, Black's Law's definition of what constitutes process. Yes. And I didn't mean that in a sense of I'm just trying to raise that as a singular. I do think there's a procedural infirmity in how Mr. Chatterton and I were treated. And this happened over a span of many meetings. Starting at the June 9th meeting, especially, that was where it really kicked off, and the pattern of retaliation from there is clear. But that aside, on just a strictly procedural grounds, the spirit and point of notice is to be able to allow us to do our jobs. And our job is not to be a rubber stamper and just say yes to whatever they put before us, but to intelligently and critically read it and evaluate whether or not this information could hurt us. I think there was a better way to handle a lot of this stuff, and I think if we'd had a more open spirit of cooperation and a willingness to entertain opposing viewpoints, it would have been okay, and we would have figured out a way through. But
I just told Andrew,
was the whole problem.
we literally read it over the course of 4 hours,
for any dissenting
including silly
opinions.
voices.
If you even ask,
for everyone to be able to understand what's
defending
happening,
an embezzler, you
without
might
having
as
to read it
well be
themselves.
like
You're telling me that
in
3
bed
days
with
wasn't enough
Satan.
time to find 4
And
hours?
that's how we've been treated, just for asking basic, reasonable questions. Now, the notice is a problem.
Sorry to cut you off. I want to move along, and I appreciate your take here, but I want to steer clear of some filibustering. Maybe there will be an opportunity. Save your remarks for either subsequent questions or closing arguments, I guess.
The after party.
Let me clarify something, Mr. Roos. I'll start with you. Was this SIC report adopted on the June 9th meeting or the August 24th meeting?
The June 9th meeting.
The June 9th meeting. Okay. I'm going to kick it over to Mr. McGee. Do you agree with that the SIC report was adopted on the June 9th meeting and not the August 24th meeting?
That is correct.
All right. And then I feel like Mr. McGee, I want to, I think you helped me clarify the statement in the LNC's brief on what Mr. Jacobs was talking about. It was actually the June 9th meeting that he said when the report was adopted was in order. Was there anything, I guess, that came up in my discussions with the petitioners that you felt like you needed to address?
Other than the very subjective characterization, no.
Oh, you spoke a little quick there for my ears. Could you, other than the very subjective,
It
what?
broke up for a second.
The characterizations of the SIC report, which I suppose is something we're not going to resolve here, and so I don't want to waste any further time with it.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Now, Mr. Chairman, I think that's all I have. Thank you. Oh, Mr. Roos has maybe something he wants to add.
Mr. Roos has, oh boy.
I just wanted to point out, obviously it's advisory. It's not in the Robeson decision earlier this year. The JC did decide that the electronic email list mailing ballots was considered a separate session. And I'm quoting from the decision in the chat. We thereby determined that the word session in sections 14 and 15 of Article 7 of the party bylaws therefore include doing business by electronic mail balloting. Thank you.
So, Mr. Roos, let me follow up on that then. I don't know who just chatted there.
JJ. Oh, you want to say something, JJ? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask this to Mr. Roos, though. Are you claiming that because, so it sounds like things happen 1, 2, 3 because notice was done 1, then there was an interim, I guess, session, for lack of a better word. Then there was a 3rd session. Are people prejudiced by that? They're like, oh, we thought it was going to come up in the 2nd session and it came up in the 3rd. So we're confused and we don't know what's going on. Is that your claim?
There was no timing set in the purport, first of all. Second, notice violations always lead to any action based on them to be void, period.
So you're saying it's a notice violation if notice was given at stage 1, there's an interim 2nd session, but the matter's actually not taken up until stage 3.
Right.
It expires, is what you're saying.
Right. Notice always expires.
Okay.
Okay. And then Mr. Jacobs, did you want to?
Yes. First of all, the policy manual at the time referred to the previous session. So the previous session would be the one that happened immediately before that special meeting. Now, I'd have to take a look at the Robson decision again, but if that is considered to be a separate session, you would have had to have given notice in that session.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. I hope I'm done. 3rd time's the charm.
I hope
Mr. Chairman.
everyone's done too.
Thank you, Mr. Latham.
I
We will
hope
now move
everyone
to
is
closing
finished
Arguments, 5 minutes each.
and has enjoyed.
Mr. Chair, may I
Approve their
request a
application.
brief suspension of the rules to ask a yes or no question? I'm not sure about something that was raised by Mr. Latham. I'd like to just ask a very quick yes or no question.
We're not suspending any rules or taking any motions in this hearing. We're going to proceed to closing arguments.
Thank you.
So,
Praise be to Mike.
I would
Appeal the ruling. No.
Just wanted to ask, was the
It doesn't matter which
I
one.
support the ruling of the chair. I support the ruling of the chair. Let's move on.
we will move to closing arguments. Appellants have 5 minutes.
Everyone's very spicy. It's all right, guys. It's just an implication measuring contest now.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't intend to do a closing argument. But I think that one of the things here that we have discussed very clearly has been
Why is this
the
audio
idea
so bad?
of misrepresentation.
Remember, he's on a phone through
And
Hector's mic.
That would apply clearly to all parties, to all party organs and all party members. The bylaws do not say, oh, well, this applies to governments. In fact, if it just applied to governments, you wouldn't need it in your bylaws, under the principle that the bylaws do not include anything that has been put into the bylaws have a purpose. So that would be something that I would have to reject based on the idea for that. They're in the bylaws for a reason. Mr. Roos?
In closing, without apology.
So, thank you, Mr.
And with
Jacobs.
extreme prejudice.
The SIC report that was adopted, and the only time it was adopted in June 9th, and I hope that answered Mr. Tarnoff's question, is the central theme here. This was my conjecture is that there's a strong a strong sense and tradition that we treat the electronic mailing list or mail
Look, Jake,
voting
this is a
list or
family-friendly
ballot
show, okay?
list or mail ballots, however you'd like to
Keep your
call it, as a separate
implications to your
session.
Substack.
I would start there that if you're looking at the Robson decision, for as guidance, if not precedence, that there was a misstep of notice for it, and that should be void ab initio from the start, and that that's the easiest way to tackle the situation rather than and while I very much appreciate the almost 4 hours that we've been here talking about this and airing this out, I believe in some cases there's been more substantive dialogue regarding the SIC report than in many cases the LNC has provided, save for some frustration from other LNC members. The point is if, as I said before, this is a big elephant to chew on, and
Hector Roos knows a lot about elephants because it's the mascot of his favorite political party.
Call it a duck, then it's going to be clear that it's
that is JJ.
If you're going to find misrepresentation, just find it and move
Justin.
on, and it doesn't even need to be It obviously
like brainy
Resting his
from
impatience
there's
very
the independence issue that
sensuously.
they define themselves, or some of the factual issues that are presented. The standard of behavior that the SIC report conducted itself on
Go get him, Karen.
and was adopted by the LNC as an action, it should be reviewed. We deserve as members better practice for these types of special investigative committees that apparently are going to become more common as the LNC becomes more successful and continues to be incorporated under DC law. That these are things that are going to come up because we're going to attract more lawsuits. That's it. And the behavior of them trying to create a disciplinary process to someone who was not even on their committee anymore, I think is problematic as well. I think we're, as I started at the beginning, I think we're the objective here is the LNC can't figure itself out about who, what, where, who's going to do what reform to this thing. So the JC has been left
Kyle,
as the
tell
backstop
Dustin your
here
favorite swear word.
for a governance paralysis.
Or my favorite swear word that you use.
And I just want, I very much want you guys
my personal
to
favorite.
understand what position.
I'm sorry. Amanda's personal favorite word that I use is chucklefuck.
Entrusted to this.
Chucklefuck is excellent.
And I appreciate all your time today. I think it's very clear that there are some factual issues, and the most intriguing part of this entire process.
Has Kyle called me a chucklefuck? Yes, he has.
Come back and say,
Yeah.
well, we're not.
I called a lot of
bound
people
by this
chucklefuck,
standard.
though.
We're not bound by the statement of principles, and that's
You have
caused other conversations regarding the membership pledge too, which I'm
a little bit of a chucklefuck whore.
as I've heard from Mr. Seebeck, is very
Giving
important
chucklefucks to everybody.
because we're not supposed to be like the other political party duopolies. That's what sets us apart. That's what makes us different, and that's what keeps the boot off our neck, so to speak, because we are acting with these set of principles publicly, and everyone knows it.
Why the
So
report was
I
adopted.
appreciate
I don't
again your
talk
time
yourself
tonight.
into a corner, man.
And if there's still any further questions, I hope we've done our best in order to comprehensively answer them and provide all the documentation that you needed. I know there's a number of things that have been sent into you sealed under cover. I don't necessarily agree with that any of that should be sealed. I think the membership deserves the right to see how the sausage is being made. But I have not seen any of that. I've just been told it's been filed, and I think, but I appreciate again your efforts tonight. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. Mr. McGee.
Thank you. Petitioners allege that the adoption of the SIC report violated Article 3 of the bylaws.
Cockbite is also a lot of fun.
Our statement of principles by way of misrepresentation. Article 3 is and must remain a philosophical guidepost rather than a procedural cudgel. The party's governing documents do not and should not oppose a strict liability standard whereby every factual error, however trivial or unintentional, is equated with actionable misrepresentation. To do so would render all committee work perpetually vulnerable to reversal on the most minor technical grounds, paralyzing the party's ability to govern and reform as circumstances demand. In presenting their case, petitioners rely on a selective and often inaccurate reading of both the facts and the government documents. They conflate minor, non-material errors with deliberate misrepresentation, and they assert procedural defects where none exist. The LNC acknowledges that no process is without flaw. Indeed, faith errors are an inevitable part of any complex organizational undertaking. However, such errors were neither intentional nor material to the outcome of the SIC's investigation or the LNC's subsequent actions. To suggest otherwise is to disregard both the facts and the standards of reasonableness that should govern our deliberations. To retroactively nullify the SIC report and related resolutions on the basis of unintentional or inconsequential errors would undermine not only the specific reforms at issue, but also the willingness of future leaders to attempt to pursue needed reforms in the future. The LNC urges the committee to recognize the integrity of the process and the good faith of those who participated in it.
Quote unquote.
Granting the relief sought by the petitioners would set a dangerous precedent. Such a standard would render nearly all committee work vulnerable to endless appeal and reversal, discouraging initiative and paralyzing the party at moments when decisive action is needed. The work of governments depends on the ability of members to serve, deliberate, and act in good faith, learning and adapting as circumstances require. To demand perfection or to treat every error as a fatal defect is neither realistic nor just. The committee must consider the far-reaching implications a ruling of a ruling that would allow every unintended factual error to form the basis for overturning duly adopted reforms. Such a precedent would not only undo necessary improvements, but would chill future efforts at reform and self-correction. To reiterate, the petitioners have also requested that the SIC report be voided and remanded to the LNC. If this request is a good faith attempt to correct any errors, there is no need for the Judicial Committee to grant this request. A mechanism already exists to make changes or corrections to an adopted report, that is, amending something previously adopted. Since the adoption of the SIC report nearly 5 months ago, the LNC has spent considerable time over the several meetings. At no point has a substantive amendment been offered to the SIC report. In closing, the Libertarian National Committee respectfully asserts that its actions, including creation, investigation, and adoption of the Special Investigatory Committee report, were wholly consistent with the explicit language of the bylaws, fully compliant with all notice requirements, and in no way a violation of Article 3 of the bylaws. The process was deliberate, principled, and conducted within the scope of the authority granted by our governing documents. Any errors were unintentional and do not rise to the level of material misrepresentation. The LNC asked this Judicial Committee to affirm the validity
I'm not
of its
laughing
decision
at
and to recognize the
McGee, for the
integrity of the
record.
process and to uphold the standard that honors both the principles of liberty and the practical realities of self-governance. For these reasons, we respectfully urge the committee to deny the relief requested by the petitioners. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Thank you.
Thank you for your attention to this matter. I can't read the rest of the thing
Thank
right
you,
now.
Mr. McGee.
Crack up.
That brings us to adjournment of this hearing. It is, for the record, 6:51 Central Daylight Time. Thank you all for attending and considering the fact this is
Thank you
almost
for your
4
attention to this
hours
matter.
of time enduring this hearing. And the JC will now retire to our deliberations. 2 of our members will have to view the video separately before we come to a decision. Stay tuned. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for your time
Thank you.
tonight. Thank you for your
Thank you, everybody.
The recording has stopped.
Appreciate you. Love you, Ken.
I mean, this is a micro.
That was hilarious.
All those implications
Oh no.
left and right. My goodness,
large.
Kyle's face is so big. Goodness gracious.
I was born
Yeah,
that
guys,
way.
we did it. So you had the petitioners claiming that the SIC report violated Article 3 of the bylaws, and McGee et al., the LNC rather, essentially claiming that to say that Article 3 needs to be honored in the way that the petitioners were claiming that it needed to be honored would mean that there needed to be an incredibly strict scrutiny standard applied to any kind of investigation, which would effectively tie the hands of any of the investigators. It evolved from there, really. I honestly, I think the answer came at the very beginning when the question was asked, well, you're saying one of the remedies is that that Angela McArdle should be basically should be exonerated. We can't do that. Hector Roos replies, well, if you read the report, it's clear that she should be exonerated. So the report is factual. The report is factual. We're disagreeing on the interpretation. We should have gone home at that moment. That was it. That was it. Pack up and go home.
I have a clip that Alexa sent that I would like to play because it's the only response from all of pop culture that I think would be properly used against these idiots.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Essentially, yes. Essentially, yes.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty good one.
Everyone, you tortured yourselves right here with us. Jake did this to you So you should be directing your ire toward Jake at this hour. Jake Porter, this investigation. And now we wait. Now we wait for the JC to see what on earth they want to do with this. I honestly think they could go either way. I think they could say this is such a clusterfuck that we're just going to declare it null and let the kids fight it out themselves. I think that's probably what they're going to consider the easier answer. Kyle would say.
I've never seen such a hive of scum and villainy as I did tonight.
It's not quite true. You are part of LP Alliance.
It's fair. It was so like it's just incredible. It's incredible. Mike,
Nothing
Tarnoff
of merit, Evan. Nothing of merit.
Mike cutting Blay off was funny.
That was pretty fantastic. I enjoyed that.
And then
a lot of implications. I enjoyed the implications. The implications were exhilarating. I'll be thinking about them later. Yeah, when Austin stood up and it felt like he was going to give like some kind of John Galt speech or whatever toward the end about notice requirements.
It's been 4 hours. It's been 4 hours.
Kyle was writing for most of it.
It's true.
Like, Kyle got to get out of this. I had to watch this.
Not the entire time. You turned your camera off to go plug a phone in.
It's true. Use bathroom. Plug my computer in. And now we're here. Well, that was a Sunday. It was a Sunday evening. All right, guys. We really do. We thank you for sticking with this. You know, this has all been part of a master plan to get you to care about doing things for the party. Right. I know. It was all a figment of your imagination. No,
Correct, Meredith. We have not extended it. It just fucking finished.
But this and the LNC meetings and the streams that we do talking about the party and what's going on, that we want everyone to care. Because we want you to be guiding the party going forward. So this has all been a devious plot to get you to be interested in what's happening in the LP, knowing that the LNC is not the LP, but seeing all of it and as much of it as you can and getting invested in this, because that's the only way that we take this party forward. So we really do thank you for watching this with us and commenting with us and giving us your thoughts, because it really is making the party and the movement stronger, even though it feels laughing back and forth. It's what are we doing? Oh gosh, are we looking at Ronner porn? Oh dear.
No, I think this fairly well describes what went through tonight. It's football fans holding up signs of their favorite verse from Ronner.
But thank you. We will have our solidarity stream again on Tuesday. We're going to have the business list on Thursday. And on Friday, we have a very special Halloween episode, and I'm excited for it. All my costume bits came today for the most part. And so I'm going to have fun trying that on for you. All right, guys, you know what to do. If you want to get involved, join us on the Discord, discord.gg/LP-Alliance. Follow us on the social media. On X, we are at LP_allies. Support the LPA. That money goes to getting you to convention, getting the Povertarians to convention, paying for delegates, transport, lodging, everything for the Grand Rapids Revolution. It's very important. Your support means the world. Read the Torch, submit to the Torch. It is thetorch.media. And once again, our movement is always stronger with you. Until next time.